Spider Pig, does whatever a Spider Pig does. Can he swing from a web? No, he can't. He's a pig. Look out, he is a Spider Pig. Spider Pig, does whatever a Spider Pig does. Can he swing from a web? No, he can't. He's a pig. Look out, he is a Spider Pig. Spider Pig, does whatever a Spider Pig does. Can he swing from a web? No, he can't. He's a pig. Look out, he is a Spider Pig. Spider Pig, does whatever a Spider Pig does. Can he swing from a web? No, he can't. He's a pig. Look out, he is a Spider Pig. Spider Pig, does whatever a Spider Pig does. Can he swing from a web? No, he can't. He's a pig. Look out, he is a Spider Pig. Spider Pig, does whatever a Spider Pig does. Can he swing from a web? No, he can't. He's a pig. Oh, he is a Spider Pig.
All right, spirits, I need you to work with me here. Okay, let's see if I can. All right, channeling the enter demonic power. No, that's how do they do this shit? Hold on, let me see. Let me try this. What do they call him? Goblin, are you there? Goblin? Oh my God, this here.
Can Sensei come out to play?
All right, first off, I'm gonna need you to calm down. All right, but yeah, man, listen. Is this Green Goblin? I'm looking for Green Goblin. Do I got the right channel? Like,
Oh, you can call me Norman.
Norman? Okay, Norman.
No, that doesn't sound right. You call me Goblin.
Okay, so it is the Goblin. All right, goddamn, this nigga. All right, so listen. I'm. You might not know who I am, but I know who you are. Trust and believe that. But I'm doing a video, like a documentary style or review style, right? I'm talking about you and the Spider-Man movie, right? So I got a few questions for you. Is that yeah? Well, it was a movie for me. Guess it ain't a movie for you. It was your life. Well, I guess it used to be your life. You're dead now, but that's neither near nor there. Is it okay if I ask you a few questions?
What else am I doing?
Yeah, that is true. You are dead as a doorknob. All right. So listen. My first question, right? I have to ask, right? You're in a burning building, right? I hear, well, from my perspective, a woman screaming, and I'm like, what's going on? And Spider-Man approaches you, right? And you were impersonating a woman. First, I just have to ask, Nick, how did you impersonate a female that good? Like, how did you do that? That was crazy.
Years of practice.
You practiced being a woman?
You don't?
Okay. So I knew this was gonna be weird, but I didn't. All right, so we can see Defoe had some strange things going on. Okay, all right, so let's move on.
You must not have seen my catalog.
No, yeah, clearly I haven't. Okay, so how did it feel, right, when your own glider went into your torso? Because to me, when I seen it, it reminded me of like a Mortal Kombat fatality. Like the way that he dodged the glider, and like you had to have seen it coming because you were like, oh, right before you got impaled. How is your stomach okay? Like, how do you feel right now?
I think you should ask that question to your mother.
To my mom. Okay, so you're gonna ask my mom how her stomach felt. Okay, so this is funny.
You want to talk about penetration?
So now we're penetrating. So now we got jokes. Okay, all right, that's kind of funny. All right, so I got another question for you, right? So you brought up, penetration. Haha, funny. Haha, whatever. Where's Harry's mom at? Because the way you were talking about Mary Jane, it seems like you weren't penetrating good enough.
Well, she's 6 feet under.
So, wait a minute. Did you murder your wife?
I've got quite the body count.
Oh, okay. This nigga has body count. So
The energies that you had to use to summon me. What did you call them?
well, first off, I tried to say demonic, and then I got tongue twisted. I sounded like Mike Tyson for a minute. I said,
Well, this is demon time for sure.
Okay, definitely. So, okay, let me mark that off. Demon time. Okay, so you got the Black Air Force energy. Okay, you got a body count. You murdered your wife. I mean, look, man.
I am the personification of the 100 emoji. When they built that, they were thinking of me.
Okay, yeah, that's different. All right, bro. Honestly, you're hitting all the marks, man. I'm gonna make this video about you. I just need your consent. Could you sign this for me?
Sign something? How am I supposed to do that?
Yeah, that is true. I'm talking to you. I don't know.
Just take my verbal consent from the grave, all right?
Oh yeah, I am recording right now, so I guess that works. All right, man. Listen, bro. I'm about to go get this video done, man. Thanks for talking to me, bro. This motherfucker's weird as shit.
You have no idea what I've sacrificed.
All right, now that I done talked to this dead ass bro, first of all, that was crazy, right? Like, am I tripping? Or was that dude like literally insane? Like, I mean, calm down, Sin, calm down. But anyways, we're here today to talk about this crazy mad scientist, Green Goblin, bro. And I ain't gonna lie, there's a ton of Green Goblins. There's like comic Green Goblins, cartoon Green Goblins. No. Today we are focused on Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire, because this nigga Green Goblin was a menace. And I mean a menace in this movie. The shit he did in this movie flabbergasted me, literally. Like, I'm watching this movie, and as I'm seeing him do these things, I'm like, bro, if I was Tobey Maguire, I would have killed this too. I ain't gonna lie. Don't let me find out that shit was Norman the entire time, because I would have been smoked this nigga. We also have to talk about No Way Home a little bit, bro, because he was a menace in this movie. You know when is a menace? When he dies in one movie and then he comes back in a whole nother universe. Bro, oh my God. And I thought Doctor Strange and the multiverse shit was weird. But the fact that this came to Tom Holland's universe and he's a menace here too. Anyways, this nigga Norman Osborn is a huge scientist in Spider-Man 1, bro. I'm something of a scientist myself. Y'all probably remember him saying that when he was talking to Toby in the beginning. Now, I'm gonna just call this Toby, because if I say Peter Parker, there's like 48 Peter Parkers now. We've got Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland. I can't keep up with all these little niggas, bro. I'm just gonna say Toby, and I'm gonna say Goblin. You feel me? And I'm talking about Goblin, not that kind of Goblin. You feel me? Not the Goblin. You feel me? But that's anything over there. So I'm not gonna lie, bro. This nigga Norman Osborn was working on a superhuman formula, bro. He had like this glider, these grenade weapons and stuff, but the army was not impressed with that. Especially this one general that was there. He didn't even f with Norman in the first place. The entire movie, until he got smoked, this nigga was trying to f Norman over. But Norman was not having this bullshit. Basically, the general came and he was asking this nigga Norman, like, all right, what's the update on the superhuman formula? This nigga Norman is like, oh, it's done. But his scientist buddy was like, whoa now there, big fella. We're nowhere near done. We gotta make a whole new formula. And that is where everything went wrong, because this nigga Norman's pride got in the way, and he was like, nah, that. I'm gonna use this formula on myself. Nigga took matters into his own hands, literally, bro. Oh my God, bro. So they strapped this nigga up. They put him in this motherfucking gas chamber. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know about using gas chambers in movies like this, because literally when I'm watching gas chamber scenes in movies, I get anxiety myself, nigga, like I'm in there. Knowing damn well I'm out here breathing this global warming ass, fossil fuel ass oxygen. All right, nigga, are we all in a gas chamber? All right. Anyways, that's neither near or there. My point is, this nigga gets in, he starts inhaling this motherfucking nasty ass. I ain't gonna lie, bro. This shit looked like the meanest Za I've ever seen. Like, literally, that Green Goblin pack is hitting, bro. Like the way that this gas came out and had this nigga convulsing, I was like, bro, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Somebody need to roll me up some of that shit. I ain't gonna hold you. So this nigga inhales this motherfucking gas and starts tweaking the out, hitting them folks and shit while he's strapped up. And then his heart stops, bro. So his lab partner runs in. He's like, oh my God, Norman. And this nigga wakes up and breaks out of the steel clamps that are holding him down and grabs this nigga by the throat. He's like, give me the formula. And he throws this nigga, bro. Literally one arm throws this nigga like he was on track and field and doing shot put. Throws this nigga into their work area. He breaks literally everything, including his neck. Because the next day, this nigga Norman gets found in his big ass house, his suite on the ground. Harry, his son, comes in. He's like, oh my God, Dad. This nigga Norman wakes up like, God damn, son, I ain't gonna lie to you. Nigga had him up these last night. Them yerkies put me out. I ain't gonna lie though. The nigga was down like he was on the Xan nap. I'm gonna come all the way clean, but this nigga gets up. He's like, bro, what happened? Like, and then his workers come in. They're like, oh my God, Norman, your lab partner, he died last night. And Norman's like, oh my God. Like, nigga, you the one that did it. Now, in between this nigga getting smoked the general that was trying to f Norman over, he went and started talking to a whole nother nigga that had some weapons, some robot, right? Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, bro, this robot look clunky as hell. Like, bro, this is not no RoboCop level shit. This ain't no iRobot shit. Like, this is a nasty ass suit. It looked like the nigga was in a mini Megazord. Like, what are you gonna do with that? This shit has no mobility. This nigga Green Goblin, though, you hear? This nigga come in, throw a goblin grenade and blow the whole robot up. At this point, this nigga Green Goblin is f***ing up their weapons, so then they have no choice but to go with his. And I'm like, this nigga is smart though. I mean, he's demented, but he's a smart nigga. I ain't gonna lie. In between this happening though, this nigga Harry, bro, side mission. We gonna be like talking about Harry, Mary Jane, Peter's whole love triangle while we're doing this, because it culminates later in the moment with Norman and Harry and Mary Jane. That is literally one of the most funniest shits I've ever seen, bro. Like the way that he went, oh my God. But anyways though, let's just get off that for a second. So this nigga Harry starts dating this nigga Mary Jane, bro. And I'm not gonna lie, bro, that was f***ed up. First of all, you broke all types of bro codes, you know. And he says it later. Man, Peter been in love with that motherfucking shit. Goddamn, what? They was like, what, 4th grade? Shit, I mean, like, matter of fact, wasn't even 4th grade. He was like, man, 4 years old. Like, this nigga... If you know your man's been in love with a shorty since they was fucking 4, and y'all are 17 right now, nigga, that's 13 years this nigga's been in love with Mary Jane, and you still wanted to date her. This nigga Harry, bro, this nigga is not a real nigga, bro. Like, it is what it is. So we fast forward a little bit, and now we're in this like boardroom, and Norman's talking to all his board members, and I'm like, okay. He's like, costs are low, you feel me? The money's good, our stocks are at an all-time high. And then the nigga sitting from across him says, yeah, Norman, I ain't gonna lie, nigga, like, you feel me? Cost is low, money up, you know what I'm saying? Like, but listen, me and, you feel me, the homies was talking, you know what I mean? And like, and we finna sell the company, bro. And I ain't gonna lie, we need you to resign. Like, niggas wanna, you feel me, work with us, the army and shit, but like, they not with you feel me? Like, it's a package deal. They get us and your shit, but not you. And Norman is like, whoa, do you not know the things that I've sacrificed? I'm like, that Green Goblin started coming out of him a little bit. I ain't gonna lie, bro. He's like, look, man, Norman, I ain't gonna hold you out. And that nigga said, I'm out, am I? I said, oh, nah, this nigga's different. So right after this, we splice to a whole nother scene where it's like the Macy's Day Parade, I think. Well, their like representation of it. I don't fucking know, bro. But this funny ass shit, side plot again, you feel me? We gonna go to this side plot with Mary Jane and Harry a little bit, cause bro, this shit was funny as hell. So Mary Jane is sitting there, and this nigga Harry just simping, bro. Oh, you look so good. I'm not gonna lie, you're so beautiful. And this nigga goes to kiss her, right? I'm like, okay, he about to get a little action. Bro, she dubbed this nigga. She said, weave, bro, turned. You know when you go to kiss somebody or hug them, and then they like sidestep, give you the side hug, or they give you their cheek? She did that. This nigga didn't even kiss her on the cheek either. I'm like, damn, bro. I mean, at least he had a little bit of dignity. I ain't gonna hold you, but anyway, this nigga Goblin is tight as hell, bro. He come in on the glider, and the executives are looking like, hey, yo, is that, hey, damn, that's some new shit. Like, what's going on? Bro, this nigga Goblin comes swooping straight in, bro. Throw a grenade at the balcony they all on, including his son. You know this nigga's a fucking demon, bro. His son was there and could have possibly died, and it's little kids and shit. He was like, fuck it, nigga. If my son died, nigga, it's cool as long as I kill y'all. And he blows the balcony up. Of course, Spider-Man comes and saves the fucking day, but the executives all die, yo. He throws another grenade, and it literally disintegrates these niggas. Bro, it looked like this nigga hit them with a fucking ray gun, bro, from Zombies, nigga. This nigga said, and the ashes just stain the wall behind them, bro. You just seen the outline of these niggas. I'm like, oh my God, bro, this nigga's different. Like, when I say we are literally smoking that pack, yo, he could have went and swept their ashes up and really smoked their ass. This nigga gave them a cremation. At least they don't gotta spend money at the funeral. And the funniest thing about it is, before he threw the bomb to disintegrate these niggas, he said, I'm out, am I? Like, bro, this nigga talking heavy. Bro, this next part was mad funny, though. This nigga Green Goblin lands, right? His glider, you feel me, is somewhere off the screen. Him and Spider-Man about to scrap a little bit. But before that, 12 ran up on this nigga. They was like, put your hands up, freeze. This nigga's like, I surrender. And it started mixing these niggas. Mickey Maka, Mookie Maka, weave, started beating up cops. I'm not gonna lie, Green Goblin is already a real nigga. You beating 12 up? Bro, this is like reversed brutality, bro. He is punishing police officers. Somebody get this nigga an award. We should not be punishing this nigga. This nigga should not die. This nigga should get a Nobel Peace Prize. He was beating the shit out of them. But I ain't gonna lie, Spider-Man ran up and tried to sneak this nigga, and Green Goblin, like the menace he is, catches this nigga's hand. He was like, grab, weave, blick it, punch punched this nigga with a two-piece, bro. He falls to the wall, bro. He grabs this nigga Spider-Man's head and started booming this shit in the wall. Beam, beam, beam. I'm like, oh my God. Bro, the fact that this glider has done so much damage to Spider-Man in this movie is ridiculous. Like, he has glided into this nigga Spider-Man hella times in this movie. The only thing Spider-Man could do was f his glider up. But that nigga was like, I'm gonna get you soon, Spider-Man. This isn't the last time we see each other. And he flies off, bro. Right after this, though, this man Norman in the house drinking. This nigga's off fucking Henny, bro. This nigga is f***ed up right now, bro. He in the house like, man, these motherfuckers, they gonna put me out, nigga. After everything I did for these niggas? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, and then the goblin start talking to him in the mirror. This nigga talking to himself. He's like, nigga, get your shit together, boy. What you talking about? Who you think killed the board members, bitch ass nigga? I was like, oh my God, who's talking spicy? He was like, me, nigga, I killed them niggas, boy. You think that you did all this shit yourself, nigga? That all these good things happened to you? Nigga, it was big me. It was big me. Big goblin, nigga. I was the first nigga to kill board members. I was like, bro, this nigga okay. I ain't gonna lie, bro. This nigga's talking crazy. After this, though, Spider-Man is talking to Jameson, right? He's talking to this nigga, and Jameson's giving him third degree. He's like, Spider-Man and Goblin are in on it. I don't believe you, da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, okay. And then this nigga Green Goblin hears his motherfucking name, yo. Comes in this bitch like, hey, this is the devil himself. Where's Spider-Man? Starts choking this nigga out. I'm like, bro, this nigga will not stop. He's relentless. At this point, Peter has to dip out and then come back as Spider-Man and shit. Toby, you feel me? I said I was gonna call that nigga Toby. I still call this nigga Peter, but it don't even matter. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So this nigga come back. He's like, oh, speak of the devil. And then he says sleep and hits this nigga with hypnosis. Bro, hits this nigga with sleep powder, bro. I don't know what the f he hit this nigga with, bro. But this dust just comes out of his glider and puts this nigga Spider-Man into a deep paralysis. Bro, oh my God, bro. This nigga is different, bro. This nigga got herbs and spices and shit. Bro, oh my God. So he got this nigga strapped up to a roof, bro. And this is one of the funniest moments in this shit, because he's lecturing this nigga Spider-Man, bro. I'm not gonna lie, bro. He's like, these niggas like you now, but eventually they'll hate you. Why do you think that is, Spider-Man? And Spider-Man answers, and then this nigga Goblin walks over to this nigga, and he taps this nigga on the head. This nigga gave this nigga Spider-Man a noogie while he's tied up. He's like, let me tell you the truth, bitch. Smacks this nigga in the head. Oh my God. He's like, let's team up and take over this city. And I'm like, oh my God, these niggas about to team up. Like, I ain't gonna lie. And then after this, there's like this time compilation of like, look at Spider-Man seeing people talk shit about him and news articles and shit. And I'm like, bro, is this nigga really gonna team up with him? I was like, hold on now. Like, what's going on? I ain't gonna lie. But we jump to this whole other scene. Like, the way this stuff jumps around in this movie is kind of crazy. I ain't gonna lie. But we're in this flaming building, right? Fire trucks and all that. Spider-Man comes and saves his baby. They're like, oh my God, God bless you, Spider-Man. But then there's this woman screaming. 12 runs up. I ain't gonna lie. They like, you're under arrest. This nigga Spider-Man's like, nah, I'm good. He's like, all right, I'm gonna go say this bitch. Niggas was like, all right, I'm gonna be here when you get back, nigga. Spider-Man was like, well, I am not coming back. You got me up, bro. So he goes into this building and you hear, once again, one of the most demonic ass things I've ever seen, bro. This nigga Green Goblin was dressed up like a woman, acting like he was a female. I'm like, bro, what the f is going on, bro? This nigga walks up to this nigga, bro, and he's acting like he's a crying woman. And he turns around and rocks this nigga. And he throws these fucking blade shuriken ass things at him. He's like, I'm like, nigga, this is Naruto. This nigga Spider-Man starts dodging them shits. Then this nigga got cut. I ain't gonna lie. And the cut on his arm is mad important. Hold that. You feel me? Remember that. I said the near or there. But anyways, this nigga Spider-Man hit him through a wall and then he dips off. He's like, I'm gonna see you later, Spider-Man. And he leaves. I'm like, this nigga Goblin is a menace, bro, because you keep trying to murk this nigga and then dipping. So Thanksgiving happens, you feel me? Remember the Macy Days parade and all that. So they all there, bro. Everybody is in, you know, Harry and Peter's crib, bro. So you got, feel me, Harry, you got my nigga Peter, you feel me, Mary Jane, Norman, and Aunt May, you feel me? They all there, you feel me? Niggas is lit. So, bro, this was mad funny, yo. This nigga Norman goes to eat some food out this tray. Aunt May smacks this nigga hand, yo, and he's like, he like licks his lips and shit. I'm like, bro, what the f is this nigga getting turned on by old ass Aunt May? Like, what is happening? But at this point, though, Peter's arm starts bleeding. Remember I told you to remember that. Norman, of course, is looking like, wait a minute, I cut Spider-Man's arm earlier. Oh, shit. Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Oh, brain blast, nigga. This nigga finds out, so he gets up. He's like, I gotta go. So this nigga Harry says him out, and this is the funniest moment in the culmination of this fucking thing, bro. Oh my God, bro. This shit was so funny, bro. This nigga Harry goes into the hallway. He's like, Dad, why are you leaving? You know how important that Mary Jane is for you? And I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. He said it a lot differently, but it's still the same. But I'm gonna translate this in the hoodest way possible, bro. Because this is literally what this nigga said, bro. This nigga Norman said, man, fuck that thought ass bitch, bro. That bitch is not not worried about you, son. I ain't gonna hold you, bro. Like, this bitch does not care about you, your heart, or what you got to offer except for cash, bitch. She know who I am, nigga. I'm Big Norman, nigga. She know you got a trust fund, nigga. You think that she with you because of your looks? Look at me, nigga. Your mom left me, nigga. Me and you look the same. You think she... Come on, bro. She want that cash, nigga. That cash. And as soon as you can't give it to her anymore, she gonna leave you anyway, son. So do what you gonna do. Get your head and all that. Get your little pussy and all that. And then ditch that bitch. I'm like, oh my God. Basically calls this bitch Mary Jane a gold digging ass stop, bro. And this nigga Harry just sat there. He go in the crib, yo. The funny thing about it is Mary Jane's like, you're monster of a father, what he said to me. And he's like, don't you dare talk about my dad like that. I wish I could be half the man he is. I'm like, oh my God, this nigga taking up for the nigga too. Like, bro, this relationship was not meant to be. So again, this nigga's talking to himself, but this time he not even looking in the mirror. This nigga talking to a mask. I'm like, bro, they said the side effect was insanity, bro. This is facts, bro. This motherfucking Green Goblin is not Green Goblin. It's Norman. This nigga's talking to himself. He's like, you gotta kill him. You gotta kill him. You gotta go after his heart. You gotta go after the things that he loves. I'm like, what the fuck is going on, bro? And this led to the most demonic moment in this fucking movie by Green Goblin, bro. Aunt May is in her fucking bedroom praying to God, praying. This nigga Green Goblin blows her room up. And then when she's sitting there, instead of just taking her or hurting her, he makes her finish the prayer. He said, finish it. Finish the prayer.
Finish it. Finish it.
I'm like, oh my God. Nigga, not only did you traumatize her and hurt her and put her in a vulnerable situation, you made her finish the prayer while you watch. This nigga's a sick bitch. This is fucking crazy though, and this isn't even a cherry on top, because while this is happening and Aunt May's in the hospital, Mary Jane tells this nigga Harry, I love Peter, I don't love you. Of course, this nigga Harry with his soft bitch ass, he goes to tell his dad about it. He's like, bro, dad, like, this bitch don't even want me, pops. Like, she want this nigga Peter. Like, they've been in love since they was 4. Like, oh, well, he been in love with her since he was 4, and she ain't even know about it. But like, and I know that I'm not a real nigga for real for doing that to my mans, but like, I was trying to get my pussy, you feel me? I was trying to get my dick tickled. It's like, I ain't know for real, like, you feel me? Dad, you feel me? Like, she really is a thought, dad. Like, she was after the cash, and I ain't give it to her. Then she going on to this nigga, this nerd ass nigga. He just now lost his glasses. Nigga got a 6-pack, think he fly now. Like, it's big Harry. Like, he crying to his dad and shit. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. Then this nigga is like, don't worry, son, I'm gonna make up for these inequities. I'm like, oh my God, this nigga is about to try to kill Mary Jane, bro. And then he does, he steals Mary Jane. As he's going to attack Mary Jane and this bridge, this nigga starts singing Itsy Bitsy Spider. This nigga is demented. He's like, the Itsy Bitsy Spider went up the water spout. Down came the pain and stomped the spider. I'm like, oh my God, this nigga made a remix. Bro, this nigga sung and it blew a fucking bridge up, bro. This nigga, oh my God, bro, don't let this nigga go to American Idol. I'm just saying. So now he got Mary Jane, and then he got this boxcar full of kids, and he's giving this nigga Peter an ultimatum. Nigga's like, hey yo, you gotta either save the love of your life or you gotta save these kids, nigga. Which one do you want? And then drops both of them. I'm like, bro, he is different. Of course, you feel me? This nigga Peter saved both of them. I ain't gonna lie, you feel me? But this nigga Goblin was gliding and started rocking this nigga Peter, bro. Hit this nigga like 3 times. Hit him, boom, spun the block. Hit him again, boom, spun the block. Then he clotheslined him. But yo, this part was mad funny, bro, because the people that were on the bridge started fucking with my nigga Spider and started throwing shit at this nigga Goblin. They're like, nigga, you, nigga, you Spider, me, nigga, this neighborhood crip. They started throwing shit at him. Boom! Blicka, like shit hitting him in the head and shit. I'm like, oh my God. So at this point, he grabs Spider-Man and throw him in a fucking building. Then he throws a grenade at this nigga. I am not gonna lie, bro. This nigga started mixing Spider-Man, bro. Literally beating the shit out of this nigga, bro. Started rocking this nigga. He was like, block, weave, blick, uppercut. I'm like, oh my God. Then this nigga flip punched this nigga. Spider-Man tried to jump up and then he did a spin kick, knocked the nigga down. I'm like, yo. Then he webs this nigga. The Green Goblin breaks out of it and starts punishing him. He big boots this nigga, looking like the Big Show. Boom! Then this nigga did a Liu Kang flying kick and hits this nigga into a brick wall. Then this nigga Spider, he's looking up, he goes to web, and then his fucking wrist gets stepped on. I'm like, bro, this nigga is different. At this time, yo, I'm like, this is crazy. This nigga Green Goblin is literally beating the dog shit out of Spider. I'm sorry, beating the spider shit out of Spider-Man, bro. He beat all 8 legs off this nigga, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. This nigga was rocking this nigga. But I ain't gonna lie though, bro. As soon as this nigga Green Goblin went to go attack Spider-Man, bro, with this weapon, he grabs this shit. This nigga mad as hell because he's talking heavy to him. Nigga punched the nigga into a wall. Then he webbed the brick wall. It fell on this nigga. But this nigga nigga Green Goblin was not done. This nigga got up. He was like, all right, bitch, what's up then? Nigga gets up. Then he webbed this nigga into a wall again. Started mixing him. Mickey maka muka maka. Yo, started punishing this nigga. But then this nigga started talking to him and trying to manipulate the situation, bro. It's like, bro, Spider, Peter, it's me, it's Norman. Help me. I've been such a father to you. Please be a son to me now. And then this nigga Spider-Man says, I have a father. And then at this time, this nigga Green Goblin hits a button on his little wrist. The glider come flying, bro. And then like I said in the motherfucking intro, bro, this nigga Spider-Man flips over the glider, bro. And it impales this nigga. Nigga said, oh, babe. Last thing he said was, please don't tell Harry. I ain't gonna lie, man, this nigga Spider-Man brings his body to him and shit. Now Harry mad as hell talking about, I'm gonna get Spider back. I'm like, bro, nigga, Harry, you're really not a real nigga, bro. So I don't even care what you're trying to say, bro. And it is what it is, bro. But I want to No Way Home, because we gotta talk about this. It's not as much in No Way Home, but it's still some menacing shit. So as y'all know, we're not gonna go over the plot of No Way Home, but you know, Spider-Man was trying to fix the whole multiversal shit and make sure that these villains that Spider-Man, you know, have killed in different universes don't die. So we're trying to help fix these niggas, bro. But this nigga Norman, I ain't gonna lie, bro. The whole time Norman was with it, but Green Goblin started taking this nigga over. They asked this nigga like, yo, Norman? And this nigga said, Norman's taking a sabbatical, honey. I'm like, oh my God, nigga, what the? And this nigga gives this big ass lecture talking about their gods and shit. I'm like, bro, if you don't shut your Zeus from God of War ass up, nigga talking about we don't need you to save us. We don't need to be fixed. I'm like, oh my God, bro. This nigga Doc Ock trying to talk to this nigga. He's like, quiet, lapdog. Smacks this nigga. I'm like, oh my God. I ain't gonna lie though. This nigga smacks this nigga Spider-Man into some steps, bro. He hits Tom Holland hard as a bitch. Nigga hit the step. Falls down. I'm like, oh my God. Nigga started boxing this nigga, bro. I am not gonna hold you. Threw this nigga into a window. Started boxing his ass again. He was slamming him in the walls and shit. I'm like, oh my God. This nigga picks him up and does this like pile driver move. Slams this nigga through mad floors, bro. It's like, boo, 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 boo. All the way to the bottom. Then this nigga calls his glider in. He hits Aunt May. And then he throws a grenade and he kills her. This nigga killed Aunt May right in front of Spider-Man and said, I did you a favor. You can thank me later. I'm like, oh my God, nigga, you gonna rhyme too? This nigga rapping? Like, it was a sad moment seeing Aunt May die, but like, bro, it wasn't the Aunt May I was used to, so I was like, man, fuck her for real. This young ass bitch, I don't care. I ain't gonna lie though, it still was some menacing shit. This nigga blew Aunt May up. So fast forward to the end, yo, this nigga Peter and Green Goblin start boxing crazy, bro. I'm not gonna lie, bro. This nigga said, poor Peter, too weak to send you home to die. And then this Peter says, nah, I wanna kill you myself, bitch ass nigga. Starts mixing this nigga, blicka, blocka, mika. Bro, I ain't gonna lie, bro. They start boxing, nigga moving with the combo, started power bombing his ass, bro. He picked this nigga up and Batista bombed him. Then he picks the glider up and he's about to kill this nigga. But Toby stops this nigga. He grabs the glider and is like, don't do it. And then gets stabbed. This nigga Green Goblin's a menace. He's like, man, all that. Shank. I said, oh, this nigga from the UK, bro. This nigga's not playing. He said, you're the one that killed Aunt May. Yes, I did the finishing blow, but you caused it. I'm like, oh my God. So this nigga Peter stabbed him in the neck with the formula shit. Turn this nigga back to normal. I'm like, bro, if it was me, I would have smoked that nigga right there. I would have blinked his ass or something. Used the webs to choke him or something. Like, what the f*** talking about? I killed Aunt May? Get the f*** out of here. All in all, though, man, this nigga Green Goblin is a f***ing menace, bro. Like, literally, the shit that he did in this movie made me think to myself, like, God damn, nigga, like, bro, I mean, shit, you remember what Lil Wayne said, nigga? You say I'm a goon, but I'm a goblin. Like, nothing. You ain't saying nothing. Like, oh, God, bro, this nigga is a goblin. But it's crazy, though, and never forget, man, this nigga made Aunt May finish a prayer.
Finish it! Finish it!
Wake up, little spider.
Don't you just hate that song? Why, y'all look like you seen a ghost. It's me, dear friends. Alive and kicking. Well, alive anyway. We may have lost the war, but heaven knows we haven't lost our sense of humor. No, not even when we lost a lung. a spleen, a bladder, 2 legs, 35 feet of small intestine, and our ability to reproduce, all in the name of the South? Do we ever lose our sense of humor? Now, I owe a deep debt of gratitude to our friends from across the sea for their comfort and kindness. So, mi casa es su casa. Bet comme chez vous. Let the party begin! Mr. Webb. How nice of you to join us tonight and add color to these monochromatic proceedings.
Well, when a fella comes back from the dead, I find that an occasion to stand up, be counted.
Miss East informs me that you were expecting to see General McGrath here. Well, I knew him years ago, but I haven't seen him in a coon's age.
I can see where it'd be difficult for a man of your stature to keep in touch with even half the people you know.
Well, perhaps the lovely Miss East will keep you from being a slave to your disappointment.
Well, you know beautiful women, they encourage you one minute and cut the legs out from under you the next.
Quite. Excuse me, Mr. West. Thank you.
I'm headed down the rabbit hole. Or make that wormhole. Going after the goblin. After some of the weird worlds I've seen, I'm ready for anything. I take it back!
Never fails. I'm all set to take a nice wallow and some varmint falls in the pool.
You ever see anyone around here wearing one like mine?
I wouldn't be caught barbecued in it. Now, if you'll excuse me, this piggy's going to get roasted.
I'm serious. This world spider, or whatever, is in for big trouble. Down there! Hold on! I want to talk to you, Mr. Spider. Scarecrow? A pig.
Okay, you found me out. The name's Porker. Peter Porker, a.k.a. Spider-Ham. Somehow, the vitamins in the batter transferred the spider's abilities to me. I pledged to use my powers for good, and even join the Avengers.
Sounds more like a spider fail to me.
He made Spider-Ham sound like a failure.
You just quit?
Haven't you ever felt like a failure?
Sure. I've even walked a mile in your hooves that time Loki turned me into a pig.
What?
Long story.
It'll take more than one little piggy to save you.
Look at I am so rascally. Whoa. Yikes.
I've been to the city. Heard stories of a powerful wall-crawling boar who fought alongside this world's greatest heroes. Nothing like that shaking pile of bacon I just scared off.
Okay.
Hands off the monkey, big bad. Ready, Spider Monkey?
Right with you, Spider-Ham. Go hog wild!
I have to win!
Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin. Yo! Chinny chin chin!
That'll do, pig.
Hey!
One side, vermin!
Spider-Ham!
Iron Mouse?
That's the green monster who was asking about you in town.
What do you think?
That on this world Tony Stark is a mouse? Awesome! Hey! Well, I can't tell you what to do, but in my family, we have a saying.
With great Porker comes great responsibility.
See you around the funny farm. So long, talking crows.
Did we just see a spider monkey fly?
Let's see what alternate world is next. I'm Spider-Man, and at the moment, I'm slip-sliding through a trans-dimensional wormhole. Hey, safer than a New York taxi. My arch-enemy, the Goblin, is world-hopping, collecting DNA from every Spider-Man he can find. One new world, dead ahead. Hey, who turned off the color? This place makes Latveria seem downright cheerful. Well, no time for sightseeing, though. There he is. You know, I don't think he has a permit for that thing.
This'll heat things up.
Pumpkin bombs. Gobby's up to his old tricks, all right.
Who is this madman? And most important, who can stop him?
That would be me.
Ah, this world's version of Spider-Man, and I've come for you.
Easy, Trenchcoat. I gotcha.
I don't know how you pulled that off, but why are you dressed like that? This joyride ends now.
I think you mean Spider-Men, Gobby. As in, we Spider-Men are out of here.
You don't think that's the last of him?
Based on past experience, I'd say no. Real homey place you got here.
It can't be.
Do I look familiar?
Not anymore, kid.
Yikes! Note to self, stock up on moisturizer.
My life's been nothing but weird.
But you did what I did. You became a hero.
Some hero. I didn't even want the job. But if I don't go out there every night, the city will drown in its own evil. Stay here. I don't need some pesky kid tagging along.
Pesky kid? What? What kept you, Chuckles?
I thought I told you to stay put.
Hey, whoa! Hey!
Sometimes the only way to protect someone is to leave them behind.
Another note to self? Don't turn into this jerk.
Get lost, Pesty. Crime fighting in this town is serious business.
Dial it down, Chipper Charlie. I know villains who are more fun than you.
This is MJ Watson with a Bugle Bulletin. I'm live at New York Airfield covering the arrival of the Daily Bugle airship.
Awesome! In this world, Mary Jane made it as an ace reporter.
So I hear.
You pushed her away too?
A maniac riding, it looks like a glider. He's throwing some kind of pumpkin bombs.
Goblin!
He sees me.
Oh no, it's Mary Jane.
We gotta save her!
Don't worry, folks. It'll be a short flight.
You'll never get away with this.
Well, then maybe the spider will stop me. You hear me, spider? Catch me if you can! Spider, spider, come up and play.
Goblin will be expecting us to web swing after him.
Okay, so won't he expect? You ever fly an auto gyro?
Ever fly a what now?
Come on!
The spider will cut you down to size.
You talk like you know him. Maybe he cares for you. Let's see how that...
Let me go!
Oh no!
Is that Mary Jane?
I'll get her!
Wait, let me help you.
Why are you dressed like a clown?
I'm not the spider. He'll be here any second.
Good! I'd hate to think I went through all this for nothing.
Ow! Gobby! Inside voice! Hold on! Don't worry, folks. I saw Iron Man do this once. Yeah!
Come on, ugly. Let's rumble! If anything happened to you or someone I cared about,
But you can't live in fear of what might happen. You care so much for others. You have to let someone care for you.
I care.
You just crashed the ship's controls!
Nothing gets by you. Except me.
Then we'll ditch it in the river.
Hello? Hello? This is Jameson. What's happening up there?
Hold on to your hat, boss. There are 2 Spider-Men in New York.
Please keep your arms and legs wrapped around the superhero at all times. I'm glad we got to spend this time together.
East side, west side, all above the town. Look for the Daily Bugle's eye in the sky.
See? Good things happen when you let other people into your life.
Kid's right. No way even you could have done all that alone.
Thanks for calling the cover up insurance. This is Jerome. How can I help you?
Yeah, I would like to make a claim on my homeowner's insurance.
Damn, for real? What happened?
Basically, a plumber came in, beat my ass, set my house on fire.
Oh, shit. That's crazy, bro. But we won't cover that.
What the fuck you mean you don't cover it?
We don't cover house fires from plumbers.
What the fuck you mean you don't cover house fires from plumbers? What if my house was set on fire?
Yeah, if your house was just set on fire, that'd be one thing, but it was set on fire by a plumber. So for that kind of fire, we do not cover that shit, sir. I'm sorry.
What kind of specific ass dumbass shit is that, bro? My house was set on fucking fire. Why does it matter if it was set on fire by a fucking plumber?
What if that shit, sir? We do not cover that shit.
What the fuck? Alright, fuck it. My house was just set on fire. No plumber. No plumber.
Bro, you just told me you had a fucking plumber set your house on fire.
Bro, he was dressed like a plumber. I don't fucking know.
You was 4 seconds ago. You can't fucking backtrack in the middle of the fucking conversation, bro. Come on.
Bro, I'm gonna just hang up and call back a lie.
How the fuck you gonna tell me you gonna call back a lie, bro? We not, bro. I'm not covering that shit. I'm the only motherfucker working here anyway, so you gonna get me again, bro. So I'm gonna tell you right now, we not
Fuck
covering.
you. I know I shouldn't have fucking signed up with y'all bitch ass.
Fuck you too. Is there anything else I can help with your bitch ass today? All right, so after the phone call, if you can just take this brief survey about your service and fucking leave a
Motherfucker, no, I ain't doing that shit. What the fuck?
Hey, Daddy.
Oh, fuck no, bitch, you gotta go.
Hey, come over here and smash, bro.
Bitch, no. And who the fuck tied you up?
I did. We got unfinished business. Now come over here and put it in.
Bitch, me and you is over. You got your crazy ass dude coming over here burning down my house. Are you out your fucking mind?
You knew what it was when we got together. Now let me get that notorious DIC.
What the fuck is a DIC?
Dick?
Bitch, no, it's not. That's not how you spell it. You know how to spell?
Who cares, bro? I do not have to know how to spell. I'm a fucking princess. Spelling is for poor people.
Bitch, get your dumb ass up out of here.
Hey, where you going? Come fuck. What are you doing? At least get me down.
Bitch, my big ass getting up there to get you down. You got yourself up there to get your ass down. Use that dumb ass dress as a parachute.
It's me, Mario, motherfucker.
Oh, shit.
You would've thought you was gonna take my bitch again,
bro,
but I have
listen,
to see these
I
hands.
don't
Now you
want
gotta
her,
get
bro.
your ass rebeat.
Look, I don't want her. You can have her. I did, bro. You look, bro.
You sound like a bitch, Bowser.
Bro, look, I'm coming to you as a man, bro. Like,
man, you're a turtle sword.
Hey, can you tell this motherfucker what's going on?
Nope, should've threw me the dick when you had a chance.
Bro, just take her and leave. I don't want no smoke, bro.
Bro, you got smoke, bro. I got a fire flower. I'm about to set everything on motherfucking fire. I'm gonna take this mushroom and I'm gonna tear this whole motherfucking house down. Because when I take mushrooms, I get big as fuck for some reason. I don't know, I think it's the gas. But you have officially fucked up.
Hey people, I see you smiling, but did you actually hit that like button though? Well, if you want to check out the next part, you're gonna have to go to my boy Ace Vane's page for that. He got some other funny shit on there too. So yeah, go check it out.
Spider-Man is no stranger to tragedy. In fact, his entire life has been defined by it. His parents died when he was very young, causing him to be raised by his aunt and uncle. Peter was often tormented by bullies while in school. His uncle died due to his refusal to catch a robber, making him always feel guilty about his death. He's almost always struggling with poverty because he has to support his aunt. Peter Parker's life has been a constant war between his secret identity as Spider-Man and his responsibilities as Peter. Even with the usual struggles and challenges that come with being Spider-Man, some days are just worse than others. There are some days when it just seems like being Spider-Man isn't worth the trouble. These moments are what we'll be discussing in this video, the deaths, grief, and mistakes that almost broke Peter Parker. For our video, we'll only be talking about the worst moments that happened to Peter Parker's Spider-Man. Although there are plenty of other Spider-Man that have endured their own fair share of misery like Spider-Gwen or Miles Morales, we'll only be discussing Peter today. With that being said, other Peter Parkers outside the main 616 universe are fair game. A hard life is one thing that unites every Peter Parker in the multiverse. We have a long road of terrible things to get through, so let's get started. This is the top 10 worst things to ever happen to Spider-Man. Number 10. Kraven's Last Hunt. Spider-Man has one of the largest and most diverse Rouges galleries in all of comic history. Almost every one of these villains have made Spider-Man's life worse in some way, but perhaps none has left an impact like Kraven the Hunter. Like many of Spider-Man's other Rouges, Kraven would show up and cause a bit of trouble, but eventually be defeated by the Web-Slinger. But all that changed in Kraven's Last Hunt. This storyline turned Kraven from a bottom-tier villain to one of Spider-Man's greatest enemies. The story begins with Kraven realizing that he's grown old and that his physical strength won't last for much longer. Before he becomes too weak to hunt anymore, Kraven decides to finally defeat his greatest prey, Spider-Man. Kraven travels into New York City and attacks Spider-Man. Peter expects that this battle will play out like all the others, with Kraven gloating about his superior skills and ranting about his evil plans, but things are different this time. Kraven is brutal and efficient while fighting Spider-Man. Once Spider-Man is down, Kraven wastes no time and shoots him point blank, seemingly killing him. As the final nail in the literal coffin, Kraven buries Peter in his black suit. His tombstone reads, "Here lies Spider-Man, slain by the Hunter." Putting Spider-Man in the grave wasn't enough for Kraven though. He had to prove that he was better than Spider-Man in every way. So he donned his own Spider-Man costume and took to the streets. While pretending to be Spider-Man, Kraven took down criminals savagely and with lethal force on occasion. Eventually, he found the prey he wanted to take down the most, Vermin. Vermin was a man mutated by Baron Zemo, transforming him into a cannibalistic rat hybrid. The last time Peter faced Vermin, he needed Captain America's help to bring him down. Kraven was determined to capture Vermin all on his own. After a grueling battle, the Hunter was victorious. For 2 weeks, Kraven terrorized New York City while pretending to be Spider-Man. During that time, the real Spider-Man was in a coma while buried underground. Kraven hadn't killed Peter with his rifle, but simply placed him in a simulated death-like state. Eventually, Peter woke up and clawed his way out of the grave. Traumatized and weakened, Peter tracked down Kraven. The Hunter refused to fight him, instead showed him a terrified Vermin locked in a cage. He released Vermin and manipulated him into fighting Spider-Man, but just as the mutant was about to land the finishing blow, Kraven intervened and saved Peter's life. His victory was finally complete. Not only had Kraven definitely beat Spider-Man in a fight, but he had also proven that he was better at his job. He had single-handedly defeated an enemy that Spider-Man needed help taking down. Kraven was the master of Spider-Man's life, deciding whether he lived or died. Now that Kraven was finally satisfied, he allowed Spider-Man to leave and then took his own life. He had achieved all of his goals and died as the apex predator. The entire experience of Kraven's Last Hunt was awful for Spider-Man. Being beaten and buried alive shook him to his core. He was actually terrified of facing Kraven again. Spider-Man lost 2 weeks of his life and had to endure the humiliation of Kraven being a better Spider-Man than him. This was one of the few times that Spider-Man just lost, and he didn't even get a shot at redemption. Kraven's Last Hunt is number 10 on our list because although it was a tough time for Peter, he managed to make it out alive, and there weren't too many lasting consequences. But before we reveal more of Spider-Man's darkest moments, be sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications on to never miss an upload and smash that like button for more Plot Armor comics. Our next moments left scars that would last for years. Number 9. The Venom Symbiote. The Venom symbiote is easily one of Spider-Man's most iconic villains. Spider-Man has a long and bloody history with the black alien goo. Originally, the symbiote acted as a new suit for Spider-Man, a sleek black costume that gave him new powers and enhanced abilities. But those powers came at a cost. The symbiote fed off of Spider-Man's adrenaline. It pushed him to be more violent and cruel so that it could sate its hunger. The symbiote suit also wished to permanently merge with Spider-Man. When Peter realized the danger the symbiote represented, he forcibly removed the black suit with the vibrations of a bell tower. Peter was able to free himself of the symbiote's influence, but abandoned the sentient alien as well. Therefore, the symbiote sought out a new host, one that indulged in their violent impulses instead of resisting them. It found Eddie Brock, a rival photographer to Peter Parker who held a massive grudge against Spider-Man. The symbiote and the man became one and formed Venom, a darker, villainous version of Spider-Man. Together, the two became one of Peter Parker's greatest arch-enemies. They repeatedly attacked Spider-Man and attempted to destroy his life. Venom's violent quest for vengeance even created new enemies for Spider-Man. The symbiote created a spawn that attached itself to a serial killer and became Carnage, an even more demented and murderous villain than Venom. Venom spawned 5 new children when an evil organization named the Life Foundation captured the symbiote and extracted seeds from it. 5 powerful new symbiotes were brought into the world, and they caused all their own brand of chaos and destruction. The original symbiote that acted as Spider-Man's suit has made his life miserable for years. If Peter had decided to never put on the black suit, he would have avoided years of trouble and life-threatening encounters. Venom holds the number 9 spot on our list because of his arch-enemy status. However, his shift to a more anti-hero role over the years has kept him relatively low on this list. Over time, Venom has let go of his vendetta against Spider-Man and become more of a lethal protector. Despite all the harm the symbiote had caused Spider-Man, there is still some redeeming qualities hidden deep inside of him. Number 8. The Other. Evolve or die. Spider-Man has suffered a lot of pain in his life, both bodily and emotionally. Our next awful moment is probably the most physically grueling experience in Spider-Man's career. The storyline The Other, Evolve or Die put Peter Parker through the ringer. Over the last couple of days, Spider-Man's body has been behaving strangely. Dizziness, strange dreams, and temporary loss of powers. All of this has been caused by the villain Morlun, a dimension-hopping baddie that absorbs the life force of Spider-Folk. While fighting a villain, Spider-Man is shot and severely injured. During his recovery, his blood is tested, and the doctor discovers that Peter is suffering from an extremely rare disease. Because of the illness, he doesn't have much longer to live. Peter travels the globe and meets with all of his super genius friends to find a cure for his disease. Meanwhile, Morlun stalks him from the shadows, observing Peter's battle with his disease. Parker's friends all tell him the same thing, that they can't cure him, but that the illness is related to the radiation infection that gave him his powers in the first place. To put it simply, the event that turned Peter into Spider-Man is also now slowly killing him. While Peter is dealing with the news of his impending death, he's attacked by Morlun. The two battle across New York City, leaving a path of destruction in their wake. Spider-Man throws everything he has at Morlun, but nothing seems to faze the man. Every time he gets back up, he tosses Spider-Man around like he's a ragdoll. Finally, Peter unleashes a flurry of punches using all of his strength, but even that isn't enough to take Morlun down. The villain commends Spider-Man for putting up a decent fight, but then rips one of his eyes out of the socket. As Peter is reeling from the pain, Morlun casually eats his eyeball in front of him. This is when things get really bad. Morlun begins an absolute savage beatdown. He pummels Spider-Man into the pavement, leaving his body a bloody mess. Those that see the aftermath are made sick to their stomach by Peter's busted and bruised face. Spider-Man is rushed to the hospital, but he's on the brink of death. While he's unconscious, Morlun appears in the room and attempts to steal Peter's life force. Just as he's about to finish Peter off, Mary Jane charges into the room and interrupts Morlun's feast. He easily dispatches MJ and breaks her arm. Her scream of pain seems to have woken Peter from his sleep. With surprising strength and fury, Spider-Man attacks Morlun and gains the upper hand. Suddenly, Spider-Man grows a large stinger from his wrist and stabs Morlun, which disintegrates him. With the last of Peter's strength, he tells MJ that he loves her one last time and then dies. As Peter's friends and family mourn his death, something begins to stir inside his body. The creature erupts from Peter's body, leaving behind an empty husk, and builds a cocoon around itself underneath the Brooklyn Bridge. The creature turns out to be Peter. Inside his mind, Peter learned that he was saved by the spider side of himself that he's been neglecting for years. After he learns to accept his other side, Peter emerges from his cocoon completely healthy and disease-free. He goes back to being Spider-Man and discovers that he has new powers thanks to his evolution caused by his spider side. Although Spider-Man came out of the Evolve or Die storyline stronger than before, he had to go through one hell of a journey to get there. He was diagnosed with a terminal disease, beaten within an inch of his life, died in the arms of his wife, and transformed into a monster. It was bloody, nasty, and traumatizing, but as always, Spider-Man endures. This wasn't even the worst outcome of the story. In a what-if comic, Peter refuses to accept his spider side and stays in his cocoon. Eventually, the Venom symbiote finds him and permanently merges with him. A new entity emerges from the cocoon called Poison and searches for a mate. This quest leads him to dig up Gwen Stacy's corpse and cocoon it. The comic ends with a red hand erupting from the cocoon, implying that Gwen has been revived as a symbiote entity like Poison. We should all be thankful that Peter chose his spider side, or else things would have gotten a lot creepier. Number 7. Shed. Our previous entry pushed Spider-Man to his physical limits, however, this one pushed him to his mental limits. Many of Spider-Man's villains are tragic figures. Most of them are well-meaning people that were pushed into criminal lifestyles or horrifically transformed into monsters. Dr. Connors, aka the Lizard, falls into the latter half. Kurt Connors was a brilliant doctor who attempted to create a serum to regenerate lost limbs with reptile DNA. The doctor used himself as a test subject. Sadly, the serum transformed him into a predatory creature known as the Lizard. For years, Dr. Connors would struggle and fail to maintain control over his lizard personality. Each time he lost control, it would be up to Spider-Man to stop his old friend from destroying himself and hurting the people around him. The bond between Connors and Spider-Man would be tested to its utmost limits in the Shed storyline. While working at a research lab, the Lizard personality manages to gain dominance over Connors. He transforms into the Lizard and eats his boss and many of his other colleagues. While on his rampage, the Lizard hunts for Billy Connors, Dr. Connors' son. Spider-Man holds the Lizard off for a while, but allows him to escape to help an injured civilian. When Spider-Man is distracted, the Lizard finds Billy and attacks. In some of the most heartbreaking panels in Spider-Man history, Billy tells his father that he always knew that he'd kill him. The guilt and trauma caused by eating his own son are too much for Connors to handle. It completely destroys his human personality, leaving only the Lizard to run things. With the Lizard finally free of Connors' humanity, he sheds his skin, becoming larger, stronger, and smarter than ever before. The new Lizard is too much for Spider-Man to handle, so he runs away to survive. Eventually, Spider-Man returns, armed with an antidote and a picture of Billy. The antidote doesn't return Connors to his human form, but it does restore a little bit of his sense of morality. Seeing the picture of Billy causes him to feel guilt and shame again. Although the Connors personality was killed, enough humanity was salvaged to cause the Lizard to end his rampage and save Spider-Man's life. The storyline ends with the Lizard escaping into the sewers and Spider-Man going to see Aunt May. Once he sees her, he immediately breaks down in tears over all the horror he had to endure. Peter failed to save the life of an innocent child, and one of his oldest friends was seemingly gone forever. This storyline marked one of Spider-Man's biggest failures, and the weight of that stuck with him for a long time. Number 6. The Clone Saga. The infamous Clone Saga has been a looming shadow over the Spider-Man mythos for years. It was messy and confusing, but it also gave us some cool ideas and characters that fans have grown to love. The saga starts simply enough. Spider-Man is forced to fight a clone of himself created by the Jackal. Both Spider-Men believe that they are the real Peter Parker. The battle doesn't end until a bomb goes off and seemingly kills one of the doppelgangers. The remaining Peter is confident that he is the original and returns to his normal life, but there is an air of ambiguity. For many years. Eventually, the clone returned. It turns out that he survived the explosion and chose to exile himself for years. He adopted the name Ben Reilly and gained a new superhero identity called the Scarlet Spider. The two settled their disputes and started working together to defeat a plethora of new clones like Kane, a dysfunctional and mentally unstable copy, and Spider-Side, a monstrous and incredibly violent clone. For a long time, Peter would be forced to fight twisted copies of himself, some of them deformed or mutated, but all of them believing they were the authentic Peter Parker. Peter repeatedly watched himself die in tragic and horrific ways. Eventually, Peter and Ben take a DNA test and discover that Ben is the real Peter Parker. This news devastated Peter, but he eventually accepted it. He gave the title of Spider-Man to Ben and then retired with Mary Jane, who soon became pregnant. That was the status quo of things for a while until Peter came back and it was revealed that a resurrected Norman Osborn had orchestrated the Clone Saga to specifically ruin Peter's life. Osborn had switched the DNA results to make Peter think he was the clone. Eventually, Ben Reilly is killed and disintegrates, proving once and for all that Peter was the original. In addition to being the mastermind behind the Clone Saga, Osborn also had Mary Jane poisoned so that her baby would be stillborn. Spider-Man's greatest nemesis made him question if he was the real Peter Parker for years. He also forced him to face off against corrupted duplicates of himself that he had to all watch die. And as the final piece of trauma, Osborn stole the family that Peter was going to start with MJ. The Clone Saga might have been a confusing time for readers, but it was a living hell for Peter. Number 5. Ultimate Spider-Man's death. During the early 2000s, Marvel Comics were set in a different universe from the main 616 reality we've come to know. This new universe was called Earth 1610, or what would be known by the fans as the Ultimates universe. In this new reality, many characters had different origin stories and personalities from the ones we've become familiar with, but some things remained the same. This universe had a Peter Parker who was raised by his aunt and uncle. He was still bitten by a radioactive spider which gave him his powers, and the death of his uncle still inspired him to become the superhero known as Spider-Man. Unlike Peter Parker from Earth 616, the Ultimate Spider-Man never got the opportunity to grow up, go to college, or marry MJ. Tragedy struck this Spider-Man right after his 16th birthday when Peter learns that the Sinister Six, consisting of the Green Goblin, Kraven, Dr. Octopus, Vulture, Sandman, and Electro, simply known as the Ultimate Six in this universe, have recently escaped prison. These villains know Spider-Man's secret identity, so Peter is extremely worried that they'll come for his family. While he's searching for the supervillain, Spider-Man sees the Punisher moments away from shooting Captain America. Spider-Man bravely pushes Captain America out of the way and takes the bullet for him. Even though he was critically injured, Spider-Man is determined to keep pushing onward. He webs his wound closed and goes on to chase the entirety of the Ultimate Six, minus Doc Ock, who was killed by the Green Goblin. Although he's severely weakened from the bullet wound, Spider-Man still fights the remaining members all by himself. Peter puts up a good fight, but the Six are too much for him to handle in his condition. Right as Electro is about to finish him off, Aunt May shows up and shoots him through the chest, but the fight isn't over yet. The Green Goblin attacks Aunt May and Gwen Stacy, forcing Peter to continue the battle. Osborn is moments away from killing Peter when MJ comes in and runs him over with a truck. Despite taking a direct hit from the vehicle, the Green Goblin is still able to fight and won't give up his quest to kill Spider-Man. After being pushed to his limits, Peter manages to lift the truck and smash it on top of the Goblin, twice. Unfortunately, the truck explodes in Peter's face after the second hit. As Peter lies on the ground, his friends and family rush to him. In a real tearjerker moment, Peter tells Aunt May that he couldn't save Uncle Ben, but he was able to save her. Peter Parker then dies with a smile on his face as everyone cries around him. Spider-Man has died plenty of times in the past. He almost always manages to come back pretty soon after, but this time Peter stayed dead for a long time. Eventually, Miles Morales took over as Spider-Man in this universe, ensuring that Peter's legacy lived on. Peter did come back from the dead long after this event, but no one could forget those heartbreaking last words he gave Aunt May. Number 4. Superior Spider-Man. Our next entry on this list just feels downright unfair to Peter. We've seen Spider-Man utterly defeated by his enemies, we've seen villains steal his life, and we've seen him killed in brutal ways. This next entry on our list has all of these things happening at the same time. After years of villainy and fighting superheroes like Spider-Man, Dr. Octopus is finally dying from his injuries. While imprisoned on the raft, Doc Ock calls Peter Parker. When Peter shows up, it's revealed that Dr. Octavius switched his mind with Peter's using an Octobot. Octavius has complete control of Peter's body and access to all of his memories, while Peter is trapped inside a broken and dying body. Because Peter is never one to give up, he decides to get his body back. Using Doc Ock's memories, Peter connects with an Octobot and summons a group of supervillains to break him out of the raft. With the help of the villains, Peter steals the parts he needs to switch his mind back into his body. When Peter and Octavius finally have their confrontation, the mind swap fails. Octavius had added a metal plate into Peter's head to prevent him from transferring minds again. With Doc Ock's victory finally secured, he begins to pummel Peter's already frail body. Right before Peter dies, he floods Octavius' mind with all of his memories, replacing himself with Doc Ock. The overwhelming emotions caused Octavius to feel guilty and understand Peter's perspective. As Peter dies, Octavius promises to follow in his footsteps and maintain the title of Spider-Man. Doc Ock decides to become the best Spider-Man he can be, a superior Spider-Man. Although Peter died, his consciousness remained inside his body. The Superior Spider-Man storyline was a raw deal for Peter. He had his body stolen, was murdered by one of his greatest enemies, and then made to watch that villain live his life. To add insult to injury, Doc Ock even ruined Peter's relationship with MJ too. Peter Parker's life undeniably sucks at times. Number 3. One More Day. We've entered our top 3 of our list. These last 3 really dish out the emotional pain on Peter, mostly because they're all partially his fault. Let's start the heartache with the One More Day storyline. For the background surrounding this story, Peter had recently revealed his secret identity to the world as part of the Civil War event. This decision resulted in Kingpin ordering a hit on Peter. Peter's reflexes allow him to dodge the sniper's bullet, but this causes Aunt May to be hit instead. Aunt May is hospitalized but is in critical condition. After Spider-Man gets some righteous revenge on Kingpin, he learns that May is going to die soon. In a desperate attempt to save her life, Peter goes to everyone he knows that could possibly help. They all tell him that they're unable to save May's life. Peter even tries to go back in time with a spell taken from Doctor Strange, but that fails too. While making his way to the hospital, Peter is confronted by a small girl. The child runs off and Peter follows. While following her, Peter encounters a woman in red who reveals herself to be Mephisto in disguise. He tells Peter that he can save his aunt's life if he's willing to make a deal. Instead of the classic trait of his soul, Mephisto wants his marriage to Mary Jane. He gives Peter until midnight to make a decision. After a long conversation, Peter and MJ agree to Mephisto's deal. When they accept, he reveals that the little girl that Peter saw was their future child, who now no longer exists. Mephisto then rewrites history so that Peter and MJ are no longer together. No one knows his secret identity, and Aunt May is whole and healthy. This storyline was like a grenade thrown into Spider-Man's life. Peter and MJ had been married for decades at this point in the comics. With a single deal, all of their history together was wiped away. The addition of the daughter that no longer exists was the final twist of the knife. What makes this moment so painful is that it's entirely Peter's fault. If he had never revealed his secret identity, none of this would have happened. Number 2. Gwen Stacy's death. The number 2 spot is probably the most famous moment on our list. Anybody that's ever picked up a Spider-Man comic knows about the death of Gwen Stacy. During the early 70s, Gwen Stacy had been Peter's longtime girlfriend. During this time, killing off a major love interest, especially someone so important to the story, was unheard of. Gwen Stacy's death set a major precedent in all comics, not just Marvel. The story starts with Norman Osborn remembering that he's the Green Goblin. To lure Spider-Man out, he kidnaps Gwen Stacy and takes her to a tower on a bridge. While the Green Goblin and Spider-Man fight one another, the Goblin throws Gwen off the bridge. Peter acts quickly though and catches Gwen with his web before she hits the ground. As Peter pulls her up, he realizes that her neck is broken and Gwen is dead. Peter isn't sure if she died from the shock of the fall or the whiplash of getting caught on his web. The Goblin escapes and leaves Spider-Man to mourn his lost love. Ultimately, Spider-Man concludes that he's responsible for her death. Gwen Stacy's demise is a really simple story, but it carries a lot of impact. Gwen Stacy stayed dead in the comics for a long time after that. So long, in fact, that she was deemed one of the few characters in comics that couldn't be revived. Not only did Spider-Man lose the love of his life, but he directly caused her death, even though it was an accident. This moment marks one of the darkest times in Spider-Man's history and his greatest failure. Number 1. Spider-Man Reign. We finally reached the end of our long list of pain and trauma. This is truly an absolute worst thing to ever happen to Peter Parker. Our final moment is as strange as it is horrible. The Spider-Man Reign storyline is the worst thing to happen to any Peter Parker in all of the multiverse. Our story starts on Earth 70237. In this reality, Mary Jane died from a mysterious cancer that doctors weren't able to identify. It turns out that MJ got the cancer from Peter, specifically from interacting with his radioactive semen. You heard that right. MJ got terminal cancer from having sex with Peter. While on her deathbed, Peter left to go catch bad guys when she passed away. Not only did Peter indirectly kill MJ, but he also wasn't even there for her final moments. The trauma from the event caused Peter to give up being Spider-Man. For the next 30 years, Peter grew into a lonely old man. In the first issue, he's fired from his job as a florist because he sent the wrong flowers to a wedding. In his old age, Peter sees hallucinations of Mary Jane that haunt him. It's difficult to see a once great hero be broken in such a way. During the 30 years that Peter wasn't Spider-Man, New York was taken over by an authoritarian government called the Reign, run by Mayor Waters. One day, an extremely elderly J. Jonah Jameson comes to visit Peter and gives him his old camera and the black Spider-Man suit. Seeing the mask inspires Peter to become Spider-Man one last time to take down the Reign. Mayor Waters releases the Sinister from prison to kill Spider-Man. However, Peter's old age has made his body weak and brittle. He's easily defeated by his old enemies and almost killed until Dr. Octopus's corpse saves his life. It turns out that Doc Ock's tentacles were operating on his final commands, which were to show Peter the graves of MJ, Aunt May, and Uncle Ben. The tentacles bury Peter inside MJ's coffin, where he confesses to giving her cancer. Suddenly, Peter bursts from the coffin with his original red and blue Spider-Man outfit, which he buried with MJ. With new confidence and drive, Peter manages to defeat the Sinister Six and Reign, free New York from their oppressive rule. The storyline ends with Peter deciding to continue being Spider-Man until his dying days. That turned out to be sooner than anyone expected, though. In the first issue of Spider-Verse, this version of Peter is shown getting his head crushed with Mary Jane's tombstone. Such an awful ending for such a horribly tragic figure. It's safe to say that this Peter had the worst life of any other version in the multiverse. He gave his wife cancer, abandoned her when she died, turned into a sad old man, got buried in her coffin, and then was murdered with her tombstone soon after getting back to heroics. It'd be nearly impossible for anything worse to happen to him. So, what did you think of our list? Can you think of many Spider-Man moments worse than that? Let us know in the comments. On behalf of everyone here at Plot Armor Comics, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, keep that plot armor on you. I've been Morse Code, and have a great day.
Alright, y'all know we on our way up out of here. Thanks for tuning in to Team DWC presents Spider Pig. Y'all make sure y'all check out the links in the description. And always hit the buy me a coffee so y'all can help support the channel. Sign up or donate, whichever one y'all want to do. That's on y'all.
From a web. No, we can't. He's a pig. Look out. He is a spider pig. Spider pig. Spider pig. Does whatever a spider pig does. Can he swing from a web? No, we can't. He's
Disclaimer. This video contains spoilers for these Transformers titles. There are time codes in the description if you want to jump around. We all good? Alright, now let's dive right in.
We now return to the Transformers.
The dawn of the 21st century was an awkward time for Transformers. Fans were still reeling after the controversial run of Beast Machines. Because of that, they weren't nearly as keen on animal-based Transformers as they were only a few short years earlier, a reaction that was also felt in Japan. While Beast Wars and Beast Machines were airing in North America, Takara created several Japanese exclusive spin-off shows with their own toy lines. Beast Wars 2nd, Beast Wars Neo, and finally, the very creatively named Car Robots. Autobots. But these properties oversaturated the animal transformer market, and the overcomplicated toys of the Neo line were specifically to blame for Japanese audiences losing interest in the concept just as Americans had. As such, in response, Hasbro and Takara teamed up for the first ever Transformers co-production. Together, they would design an all-new toy line as well as a new TV series that would debut in both markets simultaneously in 2002. Yeah, it was going to be a while before that would see fruition, so in the meantime, there needed to be something in the here and now to keep American audiences engaged. So, in the 11th hour, the third of Japan's Beast Wars shows, Car Robots was ported over to the US, renamed Robots in Disguise. There was just one little thing. Car Robots was meant to be a continuation of all of the shows before it. It was actually meant to continue the continuity laid out by G1, Beast Wars, and the Japanese spin-offs. But the show was very loosey-goosey with this approach. There really wasn't much that actually tied it back to the long lineage of shows before it. So Hasbro took the liberty to instead make it a complete reboot. For the first time in Transformers history, the franchise would start over. A new continuity, new takes on existing characters with no ties to the long history before it. And with a TV debut imminent, the toy line also hit shelves. The toy line was kind of a hodgepodge of a couple different things. For one thing, it featured some unreleased Beast Wars toys, as well as some repaints from Generation 2. On top of that, the enemy faction, the Predacons, still maintained their beast modes like they had in the Beast era, but the hero toys transformed into contemporary vehicles and were once again known as Autobots, led by none other than Optimus Prime. All of this led way to the TV show's debut on September 8th, where before Hasbro and Takara could wow fans with their co-production efforts in 2002, fans would return to TV screens for the quasi-first reboot of the Transformers. This show was kind of a return to form for Transformers. In contrast to Beast Wars and Beast Machine's more serialized efforts, this show is a lot more episodic. Each episode features the Predacons concocting a dastardly new plan to destroy the Earth, prompting the Autobots to unite to defeat them. Featuring the Autobots Optimus Prime, who can combine with the back half of his fire truck vehicle to form a battle mode. There's the brothers X-Brawn, Prowl, and Sideburn, the Bullet Trains Railspike, Rapid Run, and Midnight Express, who combine to form Rail Racer. There's the Spy Changers Hotshot, Rev, Crosswise, Wars, Ironhide, and Mirage. There's Skids and Towline, as well as the Build Team, Wedge, Heavy Load, Hightower, and Grimlock, who can all combine to form Landfill. And they all have access to the Autobots' computer AI, Tai, who's said to be the daughter of Teletran 1. Somehow, they're joined by human ally Koji Onishi, whose father, Dr. Kenneth Onishi, was captured by the Predacons led by Megatron, who's actually a quintuple changer in this show. He's got 5 different modes. He's joined by Predacons Gas Skunk, Slapper, Darkscream, and Skybite. And for the first time in years, the Decepticons make their return in the form of a small team consisting of repaints of the Combaticons from G1. But here, they're considered new characters. Mega Octane, Armorhide, Rollbar, Rotor, and Movor, who combine to form Ruination, led by the maniacal Scourge, an evil clone of Optimus Prime. Voicing these characters was a cast pretty much entirely new to Transformers, with Daniel Riordan voicing Megatron and Neil Kaplan voicing Optimus Prime, who even gets to play in the comedic sandbox from time to time, like this moment where Skybite tries to show off his poetry and Optimus turns into a professional critic.
You might do better with limericks. Your imagery is derivative. It lacks semiotic cohesion. And the hapless foe is you.
Wow, Prime, just ruin the guy's dreams, why don't you? But that's really only the tip of the comedic iceberg, because this show, more than any before it, is kind of an out-and-out comedy. I mean, take the running gag where this poor woman, Kelly, ends up getting inconvenienced by the Transformers in both major and minor ways in nearly every single episode. I mean, she cannot catch a break. But the biggest comedic standout here is definitely Skybite, as while he is constantly trying to win Megatron's favor, he actually amasses some empathy for humanity. He even gets his own little fan base. This is exemplified in one of the show's best episodes, where he and the other Predacons inadvertently have to help the Autobots save a skyscraper full of people.
Everyone in favor of freeing these innocent hostages? Raise your hands! I didn't mean for you to let go! Oh, no. Over here! Careful! Careful!
There's only one little thing. That episode never actually aired in the United States. In fact, this show became one of the many pieces of media changed or affected by the September 11th attacks on the World Trade Center. Several episodes depicted scenes of urban destruction, all of which were either drastically re-edited or straight up not aired in the US, as they had become unintentionally insensitive.
Sorry, Optimus.
That's all right. One wrong blast to that plutonium energy generator, and this whole place could explode.
What? Sorry, Optimus.
If the plutonium generator inside gets damaged, the leaking zirconium gas could corrode our microcircuitry.
What?
As a result, there were a handful of episodes released out of order, making it difficult to keep continuity as it aired. But at the same time, the show's more comedic tone and episodic storytelling made it easy to jump into a given episode without any prior knowledge, making it quite accessible to new fans. Beyond that though, the show was just simply aired at the right time. The early 2000s saw a surge of anime's popularity in North America, and at the same time, 80s nostalgia was starting to break through, which Transformers was a fairly significant part of. On the flip side, however, the episodic approach to the show made it more repetitive and tedious to older fans of the franchise, and while there were some serialized elements, they moved at a glacial pace. Like how in the first episode, Koji's father, Dr. Onishi, is captured by the Predacons. Seems like a big deal, right? Like it'll motivate the whole show's events? Well, his capture is really only mentioned once every 6 or 7 episodes, until he's kind of accidentally returned to the Autobots and able to reunite with his son in episode 30 of 39. So it was a little difficult to get truly invested. The introduction of Ultra Magnus didn't help matters either, as he was a very different character than the steadfast commander of G1. This Ultra Magnus was a jealous and vengeful character who was appalled that Optimus Prime received the Matrix instead of him. But ultimately, the two characters do learn to work together, allowing them to combine into Omega Prime, which is actually the first time a major North American iteration saw Optimus Prime combined with another character for additional power. But towards the end of the show's run, some serialized elements began to take center stage, like how in the final episode of the calendar year, Megatron gains an immense amount of power, turning into none other than Galvatron. Oh boy, we're dealing with Galvatron now. I haven't seen him in a while. And his arrival led straight into the show's final stretch in the early months of... The final episodes center on Cerebros, who, when combined with the Emissary, can activate the city-sized transformer Fortress Maximus, leading to a massive battle where the Autobots, now joined by Fortress Maximus, face off against Galvatron, the Predacons, and the Decepticons for the fate of the Earth, culminating in a series finale which sees a final standoff between Omega Prime and Galvatron at the Earth's core. It's a fairly significant fight, the two characters at their maximum power, but via use of the Matrix Blade, Omega Prime ultimately defeats Galvatron once and for all, claiming victory for the Autobots, which leads to the resolution of the series, where the Autobots spend a little more time having fun on Earth before they return to Cybertron with the Predacon and Decepticon prisoners. Well, except Skybite, actually. He managed to evade getting arrested, and now he can live out the rest of his days being a happy little robot shark swimming in the oceans. Good for him. And with that, Robots in Disguise came to a close. It's certainly not the best Transformers show, and the fact that it was released purely as filler kind of gives it an awkward place among the larger franchise, even though it does have the notoriety of being the first reboot. But there were some fun ideas, some fun humor, and it gave kids an all-new version of the Transformers to capture their imaginations, even if its time in the spotlight was short-lived. But with the show having come to an end, the filler gap manufactured by Hasbro to keep fans engaged had passed. Now there was nothing left before the Hasbro and Takara cooperation effort, which was now officially known as Transformers Armada. While Robots in Disguise was technically the first reboot, it wasn't initially designed that way. But Armada, now that was designed and executed from day one with the intent that it would kick off an all-new continuity for Transformers going forward. Introducing the 2000s definitive new versions of the franchise's most iconic characters, Optimus Prime, Megatron, and Starscream, along with a slew of all-new characters alongside them. Some of these characters would share names with pre-existing G1 characters, but that was only to maintain the trademarks, as these new characters shared no resemblance to their 80s counterparts. In any case, the summer of 2002 saw the launch of the Armada toy line, introducing all of these characters to toy shelves, placing Transformers firmly back into the hearts and minds of kids everywhere. With new design lead Aaron Archer having taken over in 2000, he ushered in a more simplified design for the cast of characters, drifting away from the more complex direction the toys were going in at the tail end of the Beast era, as well as a pretty significant return to form, as both factions were once again called Autobots and Decepticons. The toys also introduced an all-new gimmick, the Minicons. These smaller characters could be combined with the larger figure to activate new weaponry, armaments, you name it. The toy line was also joined by the Dreamwave comic run, which was headed by longtime Transformers comic writer Simon Furman. In fact, Armada was surrounded by a marketing blitz larger than anything the brand had done since G1. Transformers Armada was the start of a new era, and Hasbro was going all in. And it paid off, as kids journeyed to their TV screens en masse for August 23rd for the cartoon's debut, ushering in an all-new generation of Transformers.
Hi, my name's Rad, and I want to tell you about the Transformers, two races of mechanical beings from another world. There's the Autobots, the good guys, and then there's the Decepticons, a bunch of greedy bullies. They're all fighting over a smaller race of robots called the Minicons. The Minicons crash-landed on Earth thousands of years ago, and they're scattered all over the planet. The Decepticons want to enslave them and use them to increase their power, but the Autobots will put a stop to that evil plan.
Transformers.
Kicking off with a 3-part premiere, Transformers Armada centers on a handful of human characters, the trio Rad, Carlos, and Alexis, along with bullies-turned-friends Billy and Fred, as they discover a crashed Cybertronian ship and inadvertently reignite the war between the Autobots and the Decepticons. Introducing the Autobots, leader and father figure Optimus Prime, stern but capable Red Alert, the series' breakout character Hotshot, who's the young, hot-headed Kid Appeal character, and eventually the crane-wielding Smokescreen, along with their surveillance drone Laserbeak. Yeah, Laserbeak's the Autobots drone this time around. Then there's the Decepticons, ruthless leader Megatron, his treacherous second-in-command Starscream, as well as his underlings Demolisher and Cyclonus, some of whom are voiced by Beast Wars alumni, specifically Gary Chalk as Optimus Prime and David Kaye as Megatron. This time, both sides are after the power-enhancing Minicons, who, just like in the toys, can unite with the larger Transformers to unlock new powers and abilities, introducing a slew of the bite-sized bots, the main trio being Highwire, Sureshock, and Grindor, who combine to form Perceptor, with most episodes of this early stretch focusing on the Autobots and Decepticons battling for control of yet another Minicon, an episodic approach that older fans really didn't like. Actually, you could go as far as to say that older fans hated this show. Not only was it far more geared towards kids, with all new robot designs quite different than anything seen before, but it was clear that the show was rushed to the airwaves. I mean, Armada ended up debuting a full 6 months before its Japanese counterpart, Legends of the Microns. As such, the animation was full of errors, almost to the degree of the original 80s cartoon. Some of the animation was even straight up not finished. The English dub was also quite rough, with there being plenty of instances of characters saying the wrong names, poor translations, plot holes that didn't exist in the Japanese version, all sorts of stuff. All of this put a damper on the show for older fans, and it became one of the few things the fandom agreed upon at the time. Transformers Armada was bad. But the show isn't aimed for them. It's aimed for the new kids. And to them, it succeeded in spades. The new stories and ideas were just as captivating to early 2000s kids as Beast Wars had been to 90s kids and G1 had been to 80s kids. It managed to introduce a whole new generation to the struggles of the Autobots and Decepticons, and while it was certainly lighter than the Beast era before it, that just led way to more funny moments.
Demolisher! Yes, at your service! Charge! Who will send you in as my backup, sir? No one, you fool. You're on your own. What about you, Megatron?
Don't worry, I've got things to do.
I'll take you on!
But as the show trucked into the holiday season, it did start playing into the serialized sandbox, with the Autobot-Decepticon conflict centering on a specific trio of minicons, Jetstorm, Sonar, and Runway, who could all combine to form the Star Saber, a weapon of ultimate power. So it's fortunate that it ends up in the hands of Hotshot, because it gives the Autobots a significant edge over the Decepticons. The only thing, its immense power makes Hotshot a little too overconfident, which is taken advantage of when the Decepticons call in some backup. First, there's the mercenary Scavenger, a ruthless warrior. Then there's the mysterious Sideways, who at first pretends to be an Autobot, a friend to Hotshot, until he suddenly betrays him, leaving the Star Saber to fall into the hands of the Decepticons, tipping the scales back in their favor. But surprisingly, while Sideways' betrayal is shocking, he isn't the only turncoat, as the other newly introduced character, Scavenger, is also revealed to be a traitor in the first episodes of the new year. Because here it's revealed that Scavenger is actually longtime friends with Optimus Prime. In fact, Optimus purposefully planted Scavenger among Megatron's ranks until the time came for him to rejoin the Autobots, becoming a regular member of Prime's team. While these roster changes were exciting, it did just kind of lead to more of the same, with the following episodes continuing to depict the Autobots and Decepticons battling over control of new minicons, introducing another slew of them, as well as introducing new Autobot Blur, who at first is an irritating new addition, not wanting to get along with anyone, but upon becoming friends with Hotshot, he's welcomed with open arms to the Autobot team. The Decepticons counter, though, with a new addition of their own. Thrust, a master tactician who keeps the Autobots on their toes. Though he's not so great at improv, because when Optimus' second-in-command Jetfire arrives, the Autobots manage to outsmart him. And the arrival of Jetfire leads to a pretty exciting moment where he power links with Optimus Prime, forming the Jet Convoy mode, where the two combine their power to win the day. Some serialized elements become central here as well, like the battle centering on another trio of minicons, Downshift, Dirt Boss, and Mirage, who can combine to form the Skyboom Shield, the only thing that can rival the power of the Star Saber. But by far the most interesting element is the mystery surrounding Sideways, which is highlighted in an episode where he traps 3 of the human characters in cyberspace. It's here that his true agenda is hinted at, that he's answering to someone far more powerful than even Megatron. The tease of this ultimate evil is perhaps one of the most exciting things the show does in its first half, as longtime fans would no doubt instantly recognize this evil force the instant he appeared on screen. But the mystery surrounding Sideways doesn't end there, as eventually the Decepticons become suspicious of his true motives, ultimately exiling him from their cause. Though not before he turns into this weird static stuff and manages to survive being sliced apart by the Star Saber, which is kind of nuts. But after this, Sideways disappears for a while, only sometimes appearing to manipulate events to his unknown desires. But new characters join the fray in his absence, like the colossal new Decepticon Tidal Wave, the eager young cadet Sideswipe, then there's Wheeljack, who's very different from the lovable scientist G1 introduced. This version of Wheeljack is an embittered soldier who was unintentionally left behind by Hotshot during the war on Cybertron. As such, he joined the Decepticons to seek revenge on his old friend. It's a fairly dark side story for a show like this, and shows that the series wasn't afraid to go a little deeper in its second half. All of these characters end up entwined in a search for a third trio of minicons, Skyblast, Payload, and Astroscope, who can all combine into the much sought-after Requiem Blaster, a weapon even more powerful than the Star Saber or the Skyboom Shield, which makes it all the more devastating when Megatron gets his hands on it, immediately using it to blast a hole through Smokescreen. It's a pretty shocking scene, especially considering the power of the blaster ends up melting some of his metal. It's kinda grim. Though it is kind of undone in the next episode when it's revealed his spark was actually salvageable, allowing Red Alert to construct an all-new body for him, bringing him back, now as Hoist. So he's alive and well, kids. There's no need for you to cry like you did in '86, alright? But this ends up dovetailing into the most interesting aspect of this stretch of episodes, and perhaps the most interesting aspect of the entire show, its unique portrayal of Starscream. You see, at a certain point, Starscream ends up discovering that Megatron has been using him as bait, as a lure meant to be destroyed by the Autobots, only for the Decepticons to then destroy the Autobots in turn. A revelation that strikes right at Starscream's core. I mean, the dude's already pretty distrusting of Megatron, but this was the last straw. As such, Starscream abandons the Decepticons with the Starsaber in hand and joins the Autobots? Ooh, Starscream's gonna become an Autobot now? I mean, perhaps not entirely. His ideals and desire to destroy Megatron conflict with the Autobots greatly, but Alexis believes that he might eventually make the switch permanent. So there's that. In fact, Starscream's dynamic with the humans and Minicons actually allows him to gain a sense of humility. They're able to fill a hole in his spark. It's a very interesting new avenue to take Starscream down, but one that is a very natural evolution from the G1 incarnation. It also helps that some of it is pretty funny.
I don't need your sympathy. Now leave me alone. Even the Minicons have abandoned me now.
But unfortunately, Starscream's greater desire to destroy Megatron ends up getting the better of him, as he ends up stealing the Skyboom's shield and Starsaber from the Autobots, all of which feeds into a larger plan orchestrated behind the scenes by Sideways for still unknown reasons. But it is revealed that Megatron wishes to combine the Starsaber, the Skyboom shield, and the Requiem Blaster to create an ultimate weapon to destroy the Autobots once and for all. And now it seems that Starscream, despite his growth, is all but handing him the tools he needs on a silver platter. It was a dire prospect, but one that fans would have to wait to be resolved. I know, it's disappointing, but Armada went on hiatus after this, leaving fans in suspense until the final stretch of episodes would air in the fall of 2003. Weirdly enough, though, this cliffhanger made it clear that this show would become much more interesting than it was when it started, and while older fans were still apprehensive, the darker episodes coupled with Starscream's nuanced arc were slowly winning them over, even if only a little bit. Fans still had to wait for the show's return, though, a return that felt like it was forever away. But in the meantime, a very exciting announcement came in the summer of 2003 regarding a potential future Transformers project. After many attempts to get something like it off the ground, it was finally announced in June of 2003 that producers Tom DeSanto and Don Murphy were officially working on a live-action Transformers movie. It didn't matter what generation of fan you were a part of. If you loved G1 or Beast Wars or this latest take in Armada, this was incredibly exciting news. The Transformers could return to the big screen for the first time in 20 years. Questions sparked across message boards. Which characters would make an appearance? Which continuity would it follow? Would it create an all-new continuity? Would the filmmakers completely dismiss all of Transformers that had come before and make something terrible like all of the video game movies that were coming out? It was far too early to tell, especially considering that the rights to the film hadn't even been purchased by a studio. But the prospect of seeing Optimus Prime in live action tearing down Decepticons was an exciting one, and it had fans everywhere keeping their eye out for further developments. In the meantime, however, fans were inundated with the continuing barrage of Transformers Armada toys, because as the line continued, it introduced plenty of the new characters featured in the show, as well as a repaint of Megatron now named Galvatron. On top of that, Hasbro tried their hand at a Lego knockoff called Built to Rule, where you could build Optimus Prime, Megatron, and others and have them face off until they inevitably fell apart because they did not hold together well. But perhaps the most enticing toy on the market was one that followed up on the ultimate evil tease in the show all those episodes ago, as Hasbro released the single largest official Transformers toy to date, Unicron. For the first time in 15 years, Unicron was given the spotlight, leading right into the cartoon's return on October 3rd. Finally, after the summer-long hiatus, kids could return to TV screens for Armada's last stretch of episodes, now given an additional subtitle to mark the occasion of Unicron's return.
The battlefield has shifted. The Autobots and Decepticons are racing through space to face the greatest evil the Transformers have ever encountered. They have entered The Unicron Battles.
Transformers.
Following Starscream's betrayal, the series return sees him essentially handing Megatron the pieces he needs to create the Hydra Cannon, a weapon of unimaginable power, though it's a choice that very quickly blows up in Starscream's face, because after a successful test run, Megatron turns the Hydra Cannon towards Earth to destroy the Autobot base and the entire planet in one fell swoop. And Starscream can't pull the trigger. Instead, Optimus and Jetfire launch an attack on the Decepticons, trying to free the three Minicon teams that make up the Hydra Cannon, until suddenly Thrust fires the weapon, leaving Optimus Prime to stand between it and the Earth, taking on the full brunt of its power. Ultimately, through Optimus's heroism, he saves the Earth and cripples the Decepticons' weapon, but the power of the Hydra Cannon takes its toll, and it's too much to bear. In a move that was as horrifying to 2000s kids as it was to 80s kids, Optimus Prime died. In a rather grim way, I might add, like the dude disintegrates. Surprisingly though, even Megatron is sad at Prime's passing. His nemesis is actually gone, and he doesn't know how to feel. While the Autobots do spend some time mourning the loss of their leader, there's too much at stake to stop now. As such, the Autobots, Minicons, and humans launch from the Earth, starting a race against the Decepticons to reach Cybertron for the final battle. And along the way, the Minicons, via use of the Matrix of Leadership, as well as their combined power, end up turning the tide in the Autobots' favor by miraculously bringing back Optimus Prime. It took a grand total of 3 episodes, but Optimus Prime returned. Even Megatron's glad he's back.
I never thought I'd say this, but it's good to have you back, Prime.
From here, the remaining episodes are a mad dash to the finish line, as another Minicon power surge ends up upgrading Hotshot, Red Alert, Demolisher, Starscream, and Megatron with new armor. And Megatron takes the opportunity to rename himself Galvatron. And eventually, the Autobots and Decepticons reach Cybertron for the final battle, waging war against each other one last time, all until a much-anticipated reveal of the ultimate evil. After plenty of teases after the toy launched over the summer of 2003, Unicron made his grand return. In fact, it was revealed that he'd been hiding in Cybertron's moon the entire time, feeding off of the hatred and war between the Autobots and Decepticons. Now he has enough strength to rise and destroy Cybertron in one fell swoop. As such, the Autobots and Decepticons must reach a truce to defeat Unicron, but Galvatron's pride stands in the way of uniting with the Autobots, making peace talks all but fruitless. That is, until Starscream intervenes. In a profound and satisfying end to his character arc, Starscream makes a plea for the Autobots and Decepticons to unite, and ultimately sacrifices his own life, sparking a truce between the warring factions. It's a fairly powerful moment, one that brings his entire arc to a bittersweet close. But it all leads to the multi-episode final battle against Unicron, the scale of which even rivals the finale to the 1986 movie, where together Autobots, Decepticons, and Minicons work as one to defeat the ultimate evil. Unfortunately, however, Galvatron still can't quite get over his hatred of Optimus Prime, resulting in a final battle between the two leaders, where they both take a pretty significant toll on one another. It is perhaps the most intricately animated sequence of the series, where the two characters use their best tools to rip into each other. It's both cool and yet slightly harrowing, as they both realize that their continued hatred is only fueling Unicron. That is, until Galvatron ultimately sacrifices himself to end the hatred between Autobot and Decepticon, robbing Unicron of his power, ultimately defeating the evil once and for all. Wow. Even Galvatron can make the heroic sacrifice in the end, learning the error of his ways. But with that, Unicron is defeated, the Autobots return the humans to Earth before going their separate ways, as now the Autobots and Decepticons work together to repair their homeworld. And that brings Transformers Armada to a close. While certainly a mixed bag of a show, rife with animation errors and dubbing issues, it did manage to create a whole new generation of Transformers fans, all the while bringing plenty of of Transformers ideas back to the fore, like the death of Optimus Prime and the rise of Unicron, all of which helped to bring the franchise to a new height of popularity. While older audiences never quite got into it, kids of the day were thrilled as it became their definitive version of the robots in disguise. But the adventure wasn't quite over yet, as while Armada was over, the cooperation between Hasbro and Takara wasn't. As to capitalize on the success of Transformers Armada, a sequel series and toy line debuted in the early weeks of... Kicking off immediately after the conclusion of Armada, Transformers Energon stormed onto toy shelves, this time around greatly scaling back the Minicon element to instead give each toy its own unique gimmick, not the least of which was the influx of combiners. The line brought back many of Armada's characters like Optimus Prime and Megatron, whilst also introducing a slew of newcomers. With these toys, Energon filled up shelves like nobody's business. It was also fairly well timed, as 2004 marked the 20th anniversary of Transformers, with plenty of toys harkening back to iconic designs from the franchise's history, though most of the familiar molds didn't share the familiar names. Like this one, sure looks like Wheeljack from G1, right? Well, he's actually named Downshift. So... But after 20 years and plenty of ups and downs along the way, fans geared up for the continuing adventures of the Autobots and Decepticons, both in the new comic published by Dreamwave Productions, as well as the new cartoon series. Debuting on January 31st, only a month and a half after Armada's conclusion, fans rushed to TV screens to witness the next chapter of the Transformers story.
Transformers, more than meets the eye. Transformers, more than meets the eye. Transformers, robots in disguise.
Transformers, Energon.
10 years have passed since the death of Galvatron and defeat of Unicron, and the Autobots and Decepticons have set up shop in multiple cities across the Earth and its solar system in a search for Energon. But while all has been peaceful, a new threat rises. Terrorcons, commanded by the ruthless Scorponok, and created by the mysterious Alpha Quintesson, or Alpha Q for short, who actually only has 4 faces instead of the traditional 5. But their plan is to gather as much Energon as they can to revive the defeated Unicron. Featuring the returning Autobots, Optimus Prime, who can now combine with his 4 drones, known as the Prime Force, to create a super mode. Then there's Hotshot and Jetfire, and they're joined by a plethora of new additions: Inferno, the Omnicon clone Skyblast, Strongarm, and Signal Flare, as well as the young, overeager Ironhide, the de facto main character. Along with main human ally Kicker Jones, the Autobots face off against the formerly peaceful Decepticons, Demolisher, Cyclonus, and Tidal Wave, who are eventually joined by the reborn and reformatted Megatron. Yep, the dude decided to go back to his original name, which is cool, you know, it's his name, he can do what he wants with it. But all of them are battling for control of Energon to further their own individual agenda, amounting to what is a very disappointing follow-up to Armada, even for people who liked Armada. In fact, Transformers Energon is infamously regarded as perhaps the worst Transformers show ever. Is it the worst? Well, in a departure from Armada, Energon sees the combined use of traditional 2D animation and cel-shaded 3D animation for the robots. Now, this does mean that the 2D animation has a lot more polish this time around, given that there's so much less of it, allowing it to avoid the glaring animation issues that plagued Armada. But the 3D animation leaves a lot to be desired. The character movements are stiff, the designs are blocky, and there's no room for facial expressions at all, meaning none of the robots can emote whatsoever. Which is kind of crazy considering Beast Wars 3D models were able to emote spectacularly well, and that was 8 years before this. On top of that, the plotting here is confusing at best and downright nonsensical at worst, with characters acting uncharacteristically different either from how they were portrayed in Armada, or even how they're portrayed within this very show. I mean, you got Kicker Jones, who's constantly flip-flopping between hating everyone and everything around him with every fiber of his being, to nearly breaking down into tears when a bot gets damaged in a battle. The Decepticon Cyclonus is seemingly randomly upgraded into Snowcat, making him a completely different character, though he does ski around space while yodeling, so there's that. Demolisher starts off as perhaps the most interesting of the Decepticons, being caught in a tug-of-war between his old master Megatron as well as his new friends the Autobots, which he kind of grew close to in the 10 Years of Peace. But all of that is completely thrown away when he gets an upgraded form and becomes completely loyal to Megatron. But the one who gets it the worst is undoubtedly Starscream. Early on in the show's run, he's revived by Alpha Q with no memories of his past, and eventually he falls under Megatron's command once again, completely undoing the most interesting aspect of Armada. It's made worse when you realize that the three main human characters from Armada actually make brief appearances here, and while they had a direct impact on Starscream's arc, they never once interact with him here, and as such, that aspect of the character is never mentioned again. But hey, as much as these moments are frustrating, the absurd and weird plotting does create a ton of weird funny moments that make at least some of the show a little fun to watch.
Ha! There's no place left for you to run, Starscream.
You see, the great thing about that clip is that it still doesn't make sense even with context. But if there's one thing this show has going for it in its early stretch, is that it's moving at a clip. There's hardly a moment to breathe as the show quickly introduces 3 new Autobots, Rodimus, Prowl, and Landmine, who were all heroic warriors once, but are now under the thrall of Alpha Q. But perhaps Alpha Q isn't so bad. As it turns out, his homeworld was destroyed by Unicron, and he believes that if Unicron is revived, his home world can be restored. You know, through the magic of Energon or something. As such, Optimus Prime and Rodimus form an alliance, and together with Alpha Q, they begin to work to stop their common foe, Megatron. Megatron's not going to go down easily though, as he's now recruited a new Decepticon, the ruthless Shock Blast. And while Shock Blast escapes from an Autobot prison, he ends up murdering prison guard Padlock in cold blood, which is a devastating blow to Padlock's good friend Wingdagger. And I know you have no idea what any of that means. All of this just brings Megatron a few steps closer to his own goal of reviving Unicron so that he can become the most powerful being in the universe. After a hiatus. Yeah, the show took a quick break after this. Gotta wait until the fall to see how everything gets resolved. Overall, the first stretch of Transformers Energon was nothing to write home about. Unless, of course, you wanted to write an angry letter about how much you hated it. Surprisingly, though, it wasn't just the cartoon that was losing points with fans, because the comic was actually doing worse. In fact, the comic got completely cancelled in the middle of its run. Now, this isn't exactly the comic's fault, because the publisher Dreamwave Productions actually went bankrupt in the middle of 2004. Thus, all of their comics, including their various Transformers runs, were brought to a swift end. So, if Transformers wanted to continue to have a presence at comic book stores, Hasbro would have to find a new publisher to carry on the license. But hey, at least Transformers Armada is still getting some love, as a video game was released for the PlayStation 2, allowing fans to take control of some of their favorite Armada characters in all new battles between the Autobots and Decepticons. The game surprisingly received fairly positive reviews. In fact, it was considered to be the best Transformers game to date. Though, to be fair, the competition wasn't all that stiff. But you know what? It gave Transformers fans an all-new experience with their favorite characters. At the same time, developments on another all-new experience were continuing as well. Following the 2003 announcement of a live-action Transformers movie, it was finally confirmed in July of 2004 that Paramount and DreamWorks had bought the film rights for Transformers, with Steven Spielberg set to be an executive producer on the upcoming movie. Oh, the first steps have been made. Oh man, this is really gonna happen, huh? This is real. The rights were bought, an executive producer was in place who just so happened to be the most famous director of all time, and now the search would begin for screenwriters and a director to bring Transformers to life on the big screen in the summer of 2006. 2 more years? Oh man, that feels like forever. I don't know if I can wait that long. But hey, you know what? For now, I at least have Transformers Energon to keep me going. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Either way, Transformers Energon was back from its hiatus in September of 2004 for its second stretch of episodes. And this stretch maintains the breakneck pace the series has built up to this point, introducing a new character, Omnicon Leader RC, as well as inexplicably reformatting Tidal Wave into Mirage. On top of that, Wingdagger, the prison guard who lost his friend Padlock to Shock Blast, ends up getting an upgrade himself, becoming Wing Saber, who can now power link with Optimus Prime. As such, they become the latest of many power linking combinations that don't really amount to anything. But hey, whenever two characters combine, the animators can just use the same footage over and over again, saving them time and money. So there's that. But all of this is just background noise to the larger plot, because Megatron has successfully revived the headless body of Unicron, leading to a pretty massive battle where the Autobots, joined by Alpha Q in the severed head of Unicron, fight off against the Decepticons. There are tons of moments in this battle, like Shockblast losing faith in Megatron and wanting to take over the Decepticons himself. Another moment sees a surge of Energon sent from Earth to overcharge Unicron's head to help Alpha Q, and on top of all of that, Optimus Prime gets to show off his impeccable planning skills.
Here's the plan. We'll attack Unicron and defeat Megatron. Let's do it. Right!
And then, seemingly out of nowhere, a massive rip in the fabric of reality opens up, sucking everything into it. Alpha Q and Unicron's head get sucked in, the Decepticons, along with Unicron's body, end up flying in behind them, and in pursuit, all of the Autobots make chase into the rift as well, in what is perhaps the most absurd and confusing turn of events in the entire show so far. I mean, Unicron has essentially been defeated, and everyone else has journeyed through the rift, yet we're only halfway through the 52-episode run, so what the hell happens from here? Well, upon arriving on the other side of the rift, the Autobots discover an entire other universe. One Alpha Q is taking immediate advantage of to create entire planets from raw Energon. Planets that the Decepticons want to plunder in order to once again revive Unicron. Yeah, even though we're in an entire other universe, the show is doing the same thing all over again. But hey, at least this time there are a couple moments where the robots' faces get to emote, though that only happens when they ditch the 3D models for a second and go for traditional 2D animation. There are also a couple new characters, like a new Autobot trio consisting of cheery old man Bulkhead, who fires his guns in perhaps the most bizarre way, along with Downshift and Cliffjumper. Then later, Guardian of Cybertron Omega Supreme enters the scene, though even with these inclusions, the show doesn't get any better. The longer this show goes on, there's just this lingering sense that nothing really matters. I mean, there's a moment where Inferno ends up making a pretty big sacrifice, but then he comes back as Roadblock, completely reversing the stakes. The newly introduced characters Downshift and Cliffjumper constantly have their names swapped when referred to in dialogue, making it very difficult to tell who is who. On top of that, there's an entire episode that straight up did not air in North America. It aired as part of the Japanese version Superlink, but for no discernible reason, that episode wasn't even dubbed in English, let alone released in English-speaking countries, and apparently it's actually one of the more pivotal episodes, so losing it creates a ton of plot gaps. But hey, at least they keep the episode where all the Autobots challenged each other to a race to kill some time, so that's cool. But it all eventually leads to the moment where the Decepticons successfully revive Unicron once again, and unite the body with its head, which also results in the death of Alpha Q. Shockblast also dies at the hand of Unicron in a pretty gruesome way, but a lot of that is glossed over to make way for the ultimate final battle. It is here that Optimus Prime and Omega Supreme power link to become Optimus Supreme. On top of that, they're even given a massive boost of power by Primus himself in his first television appearance as a glowing orb, which also upgrades several other Autobots with new paint jobs. With this power boost, Optimus Supreme grows to planet-sized scale and faces off against Unicron in a final battle, leading to the moment where Optimus, along with all the other Autobots, stand together and destroy Unicron once and for all. For a show this absurd, it makes sense that the finale is bigger than anything that had come before. There was only one little thing. That wasn't the finale. Yeah, no, there are still 13 more episodes set to air in the new year. Unicron's dead, the story's over, and yet there's still more. Am I in purgatory? In any case, Transformers Energon entered another hiatus, during which there was another development regarding the highly anticipated live-action movie. As just before the year came to a close, it was officially announced that the search for a screenwriter had concluded, as John Rogers signed on to write the upcoming movie. His previous writing credits included The Core and Catwoman, so take that as you will. Although his involvement on the project was short-lived, as he only worked on the script until the early months of as in February, John Rogers left the project due to scheduling conflicts. Of course, the split was amicable, seeing as Rogers was already aware he had another project that would conflict, and he did still manage to submit an initial draft of the script. But with his departure, writing duo Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orsi were set to take the reins and bring the film to the finish line. Their writing credits included plenty of episodes of J.J. Abrams' Alias, the upcoming film Mission Impossible 3, also directed by J.J. Abrams, as well as The Island, directed by Michael Bay. Time would have to tell if they were up to the task of bringing the Autobots and Decepticons to the big screen, but no matter what they did, I'd hazard to guess it'd be a lot better than what's going on the small screen right now, because Transformers Energon has set a pretty low bar. Regardless, as promised, the final 13 episodes of Transformers Energon began in the early months of 2005, but it begged a very simple yet important question from fans. If the story's essentially over, what are these final episodes even about? Well, despite Unicron's destruction, Megatron was able to survive, and makes his way to the catacombs of Cybertron where he discovers the ultra-powerful Super Energon. With it, he upgrades himself with a new paint job and calls himself Galvatron. Yeah, he did the upgrade into Galvatron thing again. In the same continuity as last time, mind you. Starscream also takes a dip in the Super Energon and gets a new paint job himself, but he decides to keep his original name. So, the Decepticons are also joined by new characters Six Shot, twin brother of Shock Blast, and then there's the Guardians of the Super Energon, 3 combiners, 2 of which, Bruticus Maximus and Constructicon Maximus, join the Decepticons, and the third, Superion Maximus, joins the Autobots, all of whom are now fighting for control of Cybertron, and at the same time, the essence or soul of Unicron still survives in the vacuum of space, all of which amounts to a final stretch of episodes that are really quite tedious. I mean, if this were like a second season of an existing show, it'd be a lot more tolerable, but because this is an ending to a single 52-episode series, it just feels horribly tacked on and pointless. I mean, we're just spinning wheels at this point, doing the same things over and over and over again. But hey, you know what? Ironhide finds out that he has a couple of fans, so that's cool. And then they all die like 2 episodes later, so that's less cool. But all leads to the show's third final battle, as Optimus Prime and Galvatron receive massive power-ups from Primus and Super Energon respectively, and battle it out to the end. The scene even switches to traditional 2D animation, which just looks so much better, man. Although that actually isn't the final battle, because Galvatron ends up getting corrupted by the essence of Unicron, leading to a 4th final battle where Optimus Supreme has to face him down one last time. All to make way for the moment where, in the 11th hour, Primus uses Super Energon and traps both Galvatron and Unicron inside of a star that will light all of Alpha Q's planets for the foreseeable future. As such, thanks to Primus's ingenuity, at least relative to this show, Galvatron and Unicron are both defeated once and for all. The Autobots have won the day, Alpha Q's planets will survive, and finally, Transformers Energon has come to an end. Fans rejoiced at Energon's much-belated conclusion, as perhaps the darkest hour in the Transformers franchise had come to a close. It's over. It's really over. Fans were free of the thin plotting, one-dimensional characters, bad animation, and oh no, it's getting a sequel. Well, there's no way that one could be any worse, so we'll see. But with Energon's conclusion, fans were free of its shackles and were able to return to the developments regarding the live-action movie, which, as reported in April of 2005, had finally found itself a director, none other than Michael Bay. Certainly a director known for bombast, big explosions, and big spectacle. Perhaps the perfect mixture of visual fidelity to bring these larger-than-life characters to the big screen. But the announcement didn't come without concern. Michael Bay's track record with critics was checkered at best. There were a plethora of negative reviews around his latest outings, Pearl Harbor and Bad Boys 2. But hopes were high that a dose of Bayhem might be exactly what Transformers was looking for. Though, since it took so long to find a director, the release date for the film shifted from 2006 all the way back to July 4th, 2007, where it would stay. but with some of the key creatives now in place, the film was set to move forward at a solid pace throughout the remainder of 2005. Until then, the third of Hasbro and Takara's cooperation efforts was to hit the airwaves, Transformers Cybertron, the conclusion to what was now being called the Unicron trilogy, so named because of Unicron's titular involvement in all three shows. While Transformers Energon was perhaps the most reviled piece of Transformers media out there was some hope that Transformers Cybertron could bring it home. One decent sign was that the corresponding toy line was far simpler in its approach. Instead of the myriad of confusing gimmicks in the Energon line, Cybertron unified everything so that each toy had its own cyber key that'd give each figure special upgrades and weapons, all of which led to July 2nd, 2005, where Transformers Cybertron began with its third episode. Yeah, the start of the show aired out of order. The first 2 episodes didn't air until 2 months after the show started, which isn't confusing at all. In any case, fans returned to televisions in the summer of 2005 for what promised to be a big and bold conclusion to the Unicron trilogy.
Wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons.
Could that be the best Transformers theme yet? I mean, it's the perfect mixture of mid-2000s cheese and over-the-top sensibilities. You know, it's a great way to start every episode. In any case, another 10 years have passed since the conclusion of Transformers Energon, and the star that Primus formed to imprison Unicron has collapsed, forming a black hole that threatens to destroy all life in the universe. As such, the Autobots and Decepticons battle in search of the Cyber Planet Keys, that, when united with the Omega Lock, will have the power to close the black hole and save the universe. At least, that was how the show was established in North America, because the Japanese version of the show, Galaxy Force, wasn't actually designed as a sequel to the first 2 series. It was supposed to be its own thing, which is no doubt caused by the fact that this show is animated by a different studio than the previous 2. But in an effort to tie all 3 shows together, Hasbro made the decision that the black hole was directly tied to Unicron from the previous 2 shows. So that's what we're going with. Which leaves us with one important question. Is this show better than Transformers Energon? Oh, absolutely. While it still uses a mix of 2D and 3D animation, the 3D aspects are far less of an eyesore. The designs are more interesting, the animation is smoother, while the characters are still unable to emote, they're far more pleasing to look at. On top of that, while this one is probably not the best of the Unicron trilogy, it's certainly the most over-the-top and cheesiest one of the 3. I mean, do I need to bring back that theme song? Transformers Cybertron brings in a bunch of new and returning characters, some of whom are even introduced by Optimus Prime at the start of every episode.
Hotshot, Jetfire, Vector Prime, Landmine, Scattershot, Optimus Prime, Transform and roll out!
But that's not all, as the Autobots also consist of Red Alert and Overhaul, as well as Minicons Jolt, Reverb, 6-Speed, as well as Vector Prime's own Minicon Safeguard, and they're joined by main human trio Kobe, Bud, and Lori. They're all battling the Decepticons, consisting of Starscream, Thundercracker, Mudflap, and their leader Megatron, who in one of many discontinuities from the previous show, is both free from his imprisonment and back to being Megatron with an all-new look, though it is said that his armor is forged from Unicron. So there is that. But even then, that's just where it starts, because the quest for the Cyber Planet Keys takes the Autobots and Decepticons across the galaxy to different planets, introducing perhaps the most diverse cast of characters ever in a Transformers show. First up is Velocitron, the Speed Planet, introducing Override, Breakdown, and Clocker to the Autobots, as well as Ransack, Crumplezone, and Dirt Boss to the Decepticons. Though Velocitron is where the show's pacing issues start rearing their ugly head. While this show doesn't repeat its plot 3 times like Energon did, it still struggles to fill 52 episodes, as this early stretch features no less than 6 episodes on one single race to win the first Cyber Planet Key. After that, the show journeys to the Jungle Planet, a world that consists of entirely animalistic Transformers and a nod towards Beast Wars. Snarl and Backstop join the Autobots, while Scourge, Undermine, and Brimstone join the Decepticons in the battle for the second Cyber Planet Key. It is also here that Overhaul despite not being a native of the jungle planet, ends up finding the beast within and transforms into Leo Breaker, a lion who has the ability to combine with Optimus Prime to create a savage claw mode, which is greatly devastating to Megatron. The third cyberplanet key ends up being located on Earth, bringing the conflict back to home soil, which not only introduces new Autobots Evac and Crosswise, but it also sees Starscream return to his more treacherous roots, as early in the show's run he ends up abandoning Megatron's cause to further his own agenda, eventually being joined in his quest by Sideways, leading to a couple episodes where Starscream actually awakens his own army of Decepticons, threatening to take over the Earth. It's one of the rare moments where Starscream is actually able to be intimidating, which is pretty cool. It also leads to the introduction of Lugnuts and Thunderblast, the latter of whom ends up joining Megatron's team, all of which leads to the midpoint of the series, where during a sizable battle against the Decepticons, Autobots Hotshot, Red Alert, and Scattershot are viciously gunned down by a cyber key-infused Megatron. Yeah, they get pretty banged up, in a scene that was kind of scary to fans of the show, especially considering the show would go on a short hiatus after this, leaving fans on their toes, at least until the show returned early in the following year. It is here that after being gravely injured by Megatron, Hotshot, Red Alert, and Scattershot wind up getting revived and upgraded into new super powerful forms, becoming the Cybertron defense team for the remainder of the show. But they're not the only ones with upgrades, as the show eventually introduces Wingsaber, who can combine with Optimus Prime to create an ultra-powerful super mode. Although weirdly enough, this show presents that idea as completely new to both characters, despite the fact that they combined a ton during the events of Energon. But again, this wasn't originally a sequel, so... Eventually, after having retrieved 3 of the 4 cyberplanet keys, the Autobots and Decepticons return to Cybertron for the next phase in their great battles. It is here that the first 3 keys are united with the Omega Lock and are able to reveal Primus himself. While Primus did appear in Transformers Energon as a disembodied sphere of light, this show sees Cybertron itself transform into the Transformer God, who, with the power of the first 3 keys, is able to keep the black hole at bay for the time being whilst the Autobots journey to retrieve the 4th and final cyberplanet key. Fans would have to wait a while before the 4th cyberplanet key was revealed though, as the show went on a brief hiatus over the summer of 2006. Well, in North America anyway. Galaxy Force in Japan had already been over since September 2005, so you could go ahead and watch the conclusion in Japanese if you wanted to. But in the meantime, over the following months of 2006, developments continued regarding the live-action Transformers film. After the hiring of the principal crew, casting had begun for the human characters set to take the stage. First up, at the end of March 2006, Shia LaBeouf was cast as Spike Witwicky, or as the production was calling him, Sam Witwicky. Following that, Josh Duhamel joined in April alongside Tyrese Gibson, Rachel Taylor, Bernie Mac, and Megan Fox in the following weeks, all of which led to the start of principal photography in the spring of 2006. The movie was now officially underway, a fact that generated a lot of fan excitement, most notably expressed with an influx of fan videos hitting the internet, like this one titled Optimus Prime Real, where Optimus Prime was in fact real. But even with all of this fan excitement, it all materialized in the form of one simple question. Who was going to voice the robots? Petitions and movements began almost immediately on message boards after the movie's announcement and continued strongly throughout 2006. While there were plenty of ideas and notions that fans put forward that were immediately shut down by tons of other fans, there was one thing that they unanimously agreed on without question. Frank Welker should voice Megatron, and of course, Peter Cullen should return to voice Optimus Prime. While the producers and Michael Bay certainly heard the cries of fans loud and clear, it was uncertain whether or not the legacy voice actors would actually reprise the roles. It was entirely possible and potentially likely that the film would go for a bigger named celebrity, with word of Liam Neeson being eyed to voice Optimus Prime, which would certainly be a different choice. But there was some hope, as some of the original voice cast were able to get at least an audition with Michael Bay to see if they really could step step back into these roles after 20 years away, but time would have to tell if their casting was to become a reality. As the summer continued, the human cast expanded with Kevin Dunn and John Turturro, and on top of that, set photos started getting out of the Autobot and Decepticon vehicles over the following weeks, fueling tons of discussion on message boards. Then, eventually, in June of 2006, this teaser poster was released online. Even after the casting news and production updates, after the slow outpouring of set photos, this is what finally made the film feel real. They were really making a live-action Transformers.